we're changing the guard, so to speak, I thought I would like to personally acknowledge the outgoing counselors and their work. Wayne, I've lost track of how many times you've been on the council, off the council, on the council again. All the while fighting the good fight in Concord and attending meetings at Stratford Regional, as well as the many other long list of committees that we heard about tonight. When I think of you, Wayne, the word public servant comes to mind. You embody the true meaning of that word. You listen to your constituents, you ask questions, you advocate for proposals that make sense and align with your solid community values. Public servant. Thank you, Wayne, for being a role model for the rest of us.
Thank you very much.
Sally, I've appreciated getting to know you during these years. You are solid as a rock, hardworking and detail-oriented. Nothing slips by you. You too have no personal agenda driving your decisions. You are here to uphold the community values, those embedded in our master plan and our zoning ordinance. In addition to your 6 years on the council, chair pro tem, I would be remiss in mentioning all the other committees, and especially my favorite, the Durham Swap Shop. It has enriched our community in countless ways. Thank you, Sally. I hope I'll see you there at the swap shop some more. Garden, I've lost track of how many years you've served on the council. I think it's over 10. You offer our community a great balance of fiscal conservatism while caring about our small town character, protecting our neighborhoods and our natural environment, values held by many Durham residents. For Durham, it's been a perfect combination. During our most recent public hearings on the budget, you advocated tirelessly, item by item, for cutting the budget. Yet, when it came to decisions about height and character of Main Street, you were right there with 350 of your constituents advocating to preserve that small town character. You understood that 2 extra feet of height or roof style was not going to make the difference in tax dollars, but would make a difference to our community character. You also understood that as the bigger projects like R.K. Kelly and on Technology Drive or the West Edge that will make a dent in residents' tax bills. Cardin, we are fortunate to have you and your vast knowledge and deep understanding of our town government running again. I totally expect to see you at the council table in 2 weeks. After serving on the planning board, you were drafted to run for the town council. Residents saw in you valuable skills, and they weren't wrong. You're bright, quick-minded, capable of listening to your constituents, shifting your position, and working to reach compromise. While you are fiscal conservative, you understand the difference between short-term gains and long-term impacts. You consider the big picture with every vote. I've been impressed not only by these skills, but by your commitment to the community values and your defense of the master plan. You are and will continue to be a strong defender of neighborhood character. This will be critical for residents of our neighborhoods in the coming months to have allies on the town council who support neighborhoods. And for those who may be listening in the public, it might be time to tune in to what's happening at the planning board, as well as at tonight's meeting. I look forward to seeing you seated at the council table in 2 weeks, ready and well-equipped to take on the ongoing challenges we face. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Colleagues. I'm running for city council, or town council as it's called here. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce myself here to you guys. And
Your address too, please?
sorry, 72 Piscataqua Road.
Thank you.
For those of you who weren't at the candidate forum, I'm Jason Colleagues. I'm running for town council. Married 20 years, 5 kids. Managed to graduate from Navy and make it through a PhD in engineering. And I was a counselor and a whole bunch of other public service offices in Aberdeen, Maryland. Sorry. In Aberdeen, Maryland. I had a few thoughts on tonight's agenda, so I just wanted to share some thoughts on it. I know there's a vote coming up on the disabled vets thing. That's it's a pretty straightforward one. This is something I wanted to bring up whether I got a seat here or not, but the VA gives out disability ratings as percentages. I think the town could do well to offer that percentage is the benefit, the tax benefit on that 4,500 that you're voting. So if you're a 50% disabled vet, you get half of it, so on and so forth. So I'd like to propose that here. And then one of the things that I've been, that spurred me to run for this is, a lot of us are concerned about the spending and we're all trying to do our best. And that was very prevalent throughout the candidates forum as we're all trying to talk about spending. But there were a couple of instances in the agenda that kind of highlighted for me the transparency that I'm looking for as a citizen here, as a resident. So again, this is meant to be constructive criticism. I don't think there's malice necessarily behind any of these things, so please take it kindly. The dump trucks, the second paragraph regarding that description talks about they would need significant repairs. That needs to be quantified, right? I mean, if we're about to drop $440K on 2 trucks, I can't imagine it's more expensive to fix the 2 we have. And we're considering bonds for this. That seems excessive. So again, I just want to understand it better. There's no accusations here, just understanding. And on the concrete bid, page 6, second and third paragraph, there's mention of a detailed review and comprehensive cost analysis. So the work's already been done. Let's show the public the work, right? Because all that report says is these were the best bids, we're going to go with it. But you already claiming that you have the information on what made them the best bids. So why not share them with us so that we know or can at least agree and consider it for ourselves. I also want to take the second to thank all the people in the town that have made a few minutes to show me around town. I got to work with somebody who was once out standing in their field, and I've seen a lot of the town, a lot of new things, like Curtis. The more you learn about the town, there's a lot to like here. There's a lot of really great stuff. So hopefully the citizens and residents will grant me an opportunity to help serve. Either way, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is David Richmond, 16 Cowell Drive. Thank you for this chance to speak, and thanks to all of you for your inestimable service to the town. Cowell Drive, where I live, is a narrowish street made even narrower by snow in winter. It's a dead-end street. It has a hill and a bend. I am frightened walking along this street with no sidewalk. I've lived here for nearly 40 years, and I'm still concerned about no sidewalk, and I'm concerned about traffic. You're going to be contemplating a rezoning of a portion of Cowell Drive from residence area to Church Hill, which would make a potential for business or commercial establishments, which would create a concomitant increase in traffic from frightening, from where I sit, to terrifying. I fear that chances for elderly disabled people to be injured by increased traffic, and I take that personally. I am even more concerned about the possibility of children walking to school. Families live in this neighborhood, and I think those children will be put in danger. Cowell Drive is not an appropriate street for even a potential for commercial or business development. It is a residential street. I've come to a number of these town council meetings over years. I've heard a great deal of very encouraging talk about the possibility of workforce housing, emphasis on housing. A couple of years ago, I created a dramatization of Matthew Desmond's book, Poverty by America, which makes me very concerned about the availability of housing. So, single sentence, I would strongly oppose a commercial development on Cow Drive. I would strongly support workforce housing on Cow Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, Erin Sharp, 20 Cowell Drive. So my family and I have lived at 20 Cowell Drive for 17 years. We chose this neighborhood intentionally. It is a small, close-knit pocket neighborhood of single-family, modestly priced single-family homes just off the downtown circle. It's a neighborhood. We value living in a college town. We walk to work at UNH. Our children walk to school. We support thoughtful growth in Durham and understand the importance of a vibrant downtown. This request, however, is not about whether Durham should grow. The question before you is whether 20 Cowell Drive is appropriately located within the Churchill District, a zoning district designed as part of Durham's downtown and commercial core. It is not. The Churchill District permits core commercial uses, restaurants, retail, small manufacturing, hotels, inns, daycare centers, financial institutions, and other higher intensity uses. While the current owner may state residential intent, zoning decisions must consider what is permitted long-term, not just current plans. Once rezoned, future owners would have the right to pursue these commercial uses. Cowell Drive is fundamentally different from the Churchill corridor. There are no single-family homes currently in the Churchill zone. Churchill properties are located on major thoroughfares that carry significant traffic into and out of downtown. Cowell is a narrow, dead-end residential street with no sidewalks and no parking. Visibility is very limited due to the slope and curvature of the road. Traffic entering and exiting Madbury Road at this location is already complex and congested. This is not infrastructure designed for commercial intensity. Rezoning 10 Cowell would introduce the possibility of higher traffic volume, delivery vehicle service access, and pedestrian demand into a space that is not physically able to handle and is already safety sensitive. It would also allow structures to be built as close to 5 feet from the street, further reducing any sight lines and pedestrian safety. There was a discussion at the planning board suggesting that keeping the property residential could increase the risk of student rentals. I've lived next to student rentals for years. I have no problem with that, actually. I love my student neighbors, but the housing patterns in our neighborhood have historically shifted in response to broader market forces, including downtown student housing development and UNH enrollment trends. Those cycles do not justify changing the zoning classification of a residential pocket street into part of a commercial zone. This is ultimately the planning question. Does 10 Cowell Drive function as Durham's commercial core, or is it part of a small residential neighborhood adjacent to downtown? The answer, based on infrastructure, traffic patterns, surrounding structures, and historical use, is clear. I support Durham's economic viability. I think a workforce housing overlay that would preserve the residential character of the neighborhood could be an exciting opportunity, but rezoning this property into the Churchill District is just not appropriate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Susan Richmond, 16 Cal Drive, and I need to turn the computer on. So we're looking at the map of the area that's being considered, and where you see Madbury, you see traffic coming from Main Street, heading west, and on, that's from 108, and then from Main Street going east. At any rate, traffic is merging from both those streets and have very little time to, I'm sorry, I am disoriented looking at this, but they have very little time to get where they're going before they hit the exit from the post office where traffic is coming out, and then a crosswalk, and then a crosswalk where students are coming to and from school. And those middle school students are not very tall if you're behind a car, if you're in a car. So people, and at the same time, people are deciding whether they're going to turn onto Pettybrook or go straight on Main Street. And people have a habit of not signaling, which makes it harder to know what they're going to do and whether or not they're going to turn into the post office. So that's really a terrifying driving situation, and whatever happens to 10 Cal, I hope that there can be a traffic study as to whether or not that is safe. But I echo what Aaron was just saying about concern over traffic and in that particular area. I would next like to talk about whether or not 10 Cal is surrounded on three sides by Church Hill. The post office is Church Hill, but I believe that the St. Thomas More Church, no, the post office is professional office and Thomas More is Church Hill. So post office is not Church Hill, but also when you look at the footprint of the church, there are two buildings with entrances on Madbury, the church itself and the recreation space. And then you've got the rectory. Well, the rectory is, and I got to just point it out. Right there. The rectory actually is a single-family residence. So I'm now going to show you, but while I've got that up, you can see how the road bends and that you really cannot see ahead when you're on Cal Drive, and people do tend to drive quickly on Cal Drive, and we often have to really jump out of the way at the last minute because it can be unsafe. So now you see the church, and then in the distance the rectory. So they are not a unit, and the rectory is zoned Church Hill, but it's not a commercial function. So it's not, 10 Cal is not inherently surrounded by commerce. It has the post office, which is professional building. It has the church further down the street, and it is across from the rectory, which is residential. And there's another view of the rectory with a neighboring building, so you can see how it fits into the residential scheme, that those are both residences.
Ms. Richmond?
Yeah.
The church and the rectory are zoned PO, I believe.
Okay. I'm just-
Church Hill is the property zoned in green on that map that you showed.
Okay. Well, I knew that, I'm sorry.
There's another
I
church.
was trying to read the map, and I knew they were not both, it's not Church Hill on three sides, which is one of the points of the resolution. Okay, and there's the no parking sign and the obstructed view.
You have a mic right in front of you, too. so-
Oh, okay. No parking sign, obstructed view, narrow, curving, and another view of the narrow and curving. Okay. So, talking straightforwardly. So I too would urge the consideration of housing overlay. It has been mentioned it would be nice to have more diversity in our neighborhood, although we are a very diverse neighborhood. We have older people, younger people, children of all ages, people of different ethnicities, Oops, okay. I will mail this to you, because I just got started.
Thank you for your comments. They'll have another chance if there's a public hearing.
Jeff Berlin, 3 Cowell Drive. Obviously, I am the owner of that lot. I sent you guys an email last week after comments from the planning board, of some comments from the planning board session on this matter. Your eyes did not deceive you. That is a peninsula of RA in the middle of green. So I just wanted to make that statement. And I also just wanted to offer, anytime you have any questions, speak to me at any point, whether it's during one of these meetings, a simple phone call on any day of the week. I'm always available. And then I also look forward, hopefully we can do a site walk with this group as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Julian Smith. I live at 3 Chesley Drive. I want to apologize for running over at the last meeting. And I was starting to talk about how during my 3.5 terms on the council, and even before I got on the council, I opposed any plans to remove the Mill Pond Dam and suggested again and again that there were ways to deal with the so-called safety issue. There was no danger downstream, that the algae blooms could be harvested, could be scraped up, that the pond could be aerated to oxygenate it, etc. And it would be much cheaper to leave the pond as it is than it would be to remove it. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and you're not obligated, of course, to answer it, but how many of you have actually studied the Oyster River Dam removal at Mill Pond report of 254 pages that was paid for by the town? I know there are other reports. Have any of you studied this? Oh, thank you. And what I'd like to do is pass it around, have you pass it around, so I know each of you have touched it and actually looked at it. And I have a yellow marker for the page that shows how Mill Pond Road will be blocked for some time, some indefinite time, while thousands of cubic yards of muck are hauled out of the pond and stockpiled and dried a bit on Mill Pond Road, which will be blocked. And this stuff will be eventually trucked away to God knows where. So I think we're going to have, the townspeople are going to have some answers, and I'm hoping that there might be a meeting scheduled in the near future to deal with what is going to happen once the dam is removed, or at least opened. I don't see that it needs to be removed. There are ways for the tidal water to come in and out. Now, if you haven't read the report or studied it, you can stop by the planning office and ask Tracy Cutler to give you a look at it. You can sit down with it, take it away. I wish 1 or 2 copies could be placed in the town library. So, now, I will discuss this report at the next council meeting for the benefit of the new councilors. What I'd like to do right now is talk about how the mill pond used to be used for much more recreation than it is now. When people canoed on it, when they put in little rowboats, and when it froze in the winter, Theron Terrell, who owned and operated the Shell station across from the old town hall, the old courthouse, Theron Terrell used to take his big pickup truck out there with a snowplow on it, and he plowed an area where kids and families could skate. There was no Churchill rink at that time. And then when when a skating pond was dug on Old Route 4, before the rink was actually built, then the Terrells, who owned Wagon Hill Farm, allowed and encouraged sledding and so on. And then the town, of course, bought the Wagon Hill Farm. What kind of recreational activities are we going to have? I think the town folks need to know that there is going to be something there. This has not been studied by the Parks and Recreation Committee. It has not been studied, as far as I know, by the Conservation Commission. And I thank you, and I'll see you later tonight.
Dan Winans, 109 Madbury Road. I'm here because I heard a nasty rumor that maybe the never-ending construction project on Madbury Road was going to be sidelined for some number of years. I live right by one of the speed bumps that wasn't, then it was, and now it isn't again. I have young kids, I have teenage kids, I have a father with dementia who has trouble walking but loves to walk. All trying to use the road and the sidewalks. And if it's true that I see there's something on the agenda about approving to move forward with funding the next phase. I hope that you're going to move forward with that. The road in its current form is unsafe. The sidewalks have basically been removed, and it's just looks like a big breakdown lane that my kids have to walk to get to the school bus. I'm grateful personally that I don't have middle school kids that have to walk all the way down that to the middle school, and have been, dealing with all of the turmoil that's happening. I am grateful for the beautiful construction that's happened in the downtown segment and then the next segment, but the Edgewood to Emerson segment, all we've gotten is the ripping apart so far. So I'm hoping that we're going to keep moving. I understand it's a slow process, but we're not going to take a hiatus of some number of years and leave it in that form, because I really do worry for the people that try and use that street. Personally, all the people that I work with and anybody trying to access the road there. So. And I speak for myself and I speak for our neighbors across the street. They sent an email, Kelly Pugh sent an email in, and the Warzens that live across the street, they have young kids too. I'm sort of the token representation of that little conclave of folks to come talk to tonight. So thank you for your time, thank you for your service, and I'll...
Thank you.
Good evening. Robin Mower, Britton Lane. Tonight we honor 4 outgoing counselors who exemplify commitment to the community. They have listened respectfully to countless public comments, cognizant that they are the community's representatives and that without their trust and support, the council's authority would suffer. This year, the following particularly hits home for me. 3 individuals have become so entwined with the council's identity that it's difficult to imagine a council without them. At the last council meeting, I asked the council to be mindful that the blessings of living in Durham that we all enjoy today are gifts from previous generations of engaged residents, created often at great personal cost of both time and money. Many of us also asked the council to steward these gifts, including the architectural character of Main Street. Echoing Exeter's 2018 master plan, note that, in many ways, downtown serves as the ambassador and face of Exeter, and will act as the primary draw for new visitors more than any other feature in the community. The 4 outgoing councilors may, like all of us, be imperfect, but they have consistently made decisions and contributions that respect both the public and Durham's blessings, while seeking to safeguard a sustainable future. That includes their votes on February 16 regarding the building heights. I am only one of many who want to thank Carden, Sally, and Wayne for their decades of council service, and to thank Em for being a thoughtful pathfinder for the next generation of councilors. She has brought a first to this table, not just once, but numerous times, providing new eyes and respectful ears to the wide range of issues the council addresses. Speaking as one who has suffered a lifetime of wretched jokes about my name, get ready for some corn. My individual thanks now go to Carden, whose careful, considerate competence at the town's cash register has helped steady the ship of state, and whose commitment to environmental conservation has few equals in our community. Unfortunately for me, his continuing commitment means that I have to come up with new ways to thank him. Nonetheless, I will persist because I hope and believe he will be coming back to this table after sweeping the March 10th election. Sally, who stepped in as chair pro tem, stepped up as council chair, and sallied forth into what at first may have seemed to some as the margins of town service, but that soon became bulwarks of the community. Week after week, she and her husband Jerry, a former councilor himself, steadily opened and closed our stupendous swap shop, and Sally shaped the work of both the Integrated Waste Management Advisory Committee and the Human Rights Committee. I wish her all felicity in stepping away from many years of service. Wayne, who has never wavered in his dedication to our country, to our state, to higher education, to our county, to our town, and to Wagon Hill Farm, and to larger ethical issues, even if at times his attention has wandered a bit farther afield than our potholes. He has been our keeper of institutional knowledge par excellence. The impacts and memory of his contributions will not wane. Finally,
that's a step too far.
Finally, while Em is fervent in her beliefs, a bit too out there at times for some, her contributions often have pushed other councilors to consider looking at things from a different angle. I've always said that a council of 9 allows valuable differences to be brought to the table. Em has proven that in spades. But at the core of our council form of government is the commitment each councilor must make to be well-informed on an issue and to cast a vote in the best interest of the community. Even as a newbie, Em took on this mantle, and it is my hope that she will be able to pick up that mantle again after the March 10th election. My heartfelt thanks to this outgoing gang of 4.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Bruce Fenton, Durham Point. I'm glad that you, have this fun social club. I wish I could see it through the eyes of some of these other folks. I don't. I see it as a dismal failure. I don't see years of service to be proud of. I see something to be embarrassed about. I see spending after spending after spending. You can have your little happy social club and your awards, and you can pat yourself on the back for 20 minutes, but at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. What you have done is spend millions and millions and millions of dollars of your neighbor's money. You had people, this entire room filled up. You had person after person after person talking about how you are destroying their financial future. You had people who have lived here. You had a man who's sitting right here where I am standing, who lived here 70 years, and you have forced him from your home. So when you're hanging your awards on the wall, I hope you pat yourself on the back and think about this resident of yours in your town that you love, who is leaving because of you, because you can't control your spending, because you spend with wild abandon. I don't see some vaunted great halls of the lords and ladies of the court. I see a petty tyrant who runs this town like his own personal...
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
No, you don't get to interrupt.
We have... I can too, sir.
I have public comment time. This is public comment time.
No, a point of information.
We can have a debate. You don't get to interrupt me, sir.
I just want to
this microphone.
I just want to remind you...
Shut your mouth. I'm talking.
I'm talking here. My microphone, I pay for my taxes.
I need-
Don't you dare
Mr. Chair, I'd
interrupt me.
request a recess.
Don't you dare interrupt me.
Mr.
I'm
Chair, I
speaking
request a recess to
respectfully.
calm down.
I'm able to say what I want to say. You don't get to interrupt
The
me.
council is in recess. Thank you.
You don't have a right to interrupt me. I have a right to speak during public comment. I have a right to say that has been withheld under the...
You'll have a chance to continue. You'll have a chance to
You can't handle
continue.
the truth because you're not representing the people. You're stealing their money. You're forcing people from their homes, and you can't handle the truth. If you want to have a debate, my friend, why don't we have a debate? Will you do it? Why don't you have a debate with me? You want a debate? You want to interrupt? No, you won't.
Why
You're
are
just
you
gonna keep-
armed, man?
What's that?
Why are you armed in here?
Why am I what?
Armed. Why is there a sidearm?
Because it's my right. Move to Massachusetts or California then. This is New Hampshire, it's a free state. I have the right to do it. Maybe you don't like people of certain skin colors or certain religions either. That's your problem. It's a legal right that I have. I have a right to say before you were born. I don't care what you were doing before I was born.
So he's got 3 minutes and 39 seconds left.
The room was, I was fine until I was interrupted. I have a right under public comment rules to make my comment. You don't have a right.
Robert's
what's
rule
out of
states
line
very
is you.
clearly you cannot attack individuals personally.
I can call the town manager a petty tyrant. I absolutely can. That's free speech. That is my
That is
right.
absolutely free speech. But
Yes, I have a, that has been absolutely withheld. I can say much worse than that. You ought to check out the New Hampshire law.
Hey, buddy,
I'm allowed to say whatever I want.
I am, but I can say much worse things too. So behave yourself
Go ahead.
or get out.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I have a right to say. I have a right to criticize the town manager.
You don't have a right to act like a child.
You're the one who interrupted me.
You do not have the right to act like a child.
Okay, I
So
thought you're
speak
like a child now.
respectfully like everybody else.
I was
has.
interrupted.
You are starting with personal insults and expecting
I'm allowed to
results.
say petty tyrant, my friend. You guys are very confused about the way that things work.
I hear you.
You're very confused about the town.
We could.
You're very confused people. You seem to think that you get to lord over us and that you're in charge. It's our town. I have a right under the RSAs to do public comment. You don't have a right to interrupt me. You interrupt almost every meeting. Who do you think you are? I've been interrupted 4 out of the last 5 times I've come here. I have a right to say, if I want to call Mr. Seelig a petty tyrant, I'm allowed to call him a petty tyrant. I think he's a communist, actually. I'd compare him to Putin. I call him His Majesty's Highness, and I call you the Royal Court. He's more like Putin. He's been in office almost as long as Putin. And you guys rubber stamp every single thing he says, and I have a right to say that. That's the point of public comment. If you want to pat yourself on the back, that's not what it's all about. You don't have a right to just sit here. Okay, great. So as I was saying, and I think I'll just repeat, I think you're a petty tyrant. I think that you are vastly overpaid. You have your council of cronies here who rubber stamp everything that you say. They're basically the lords and ladies of your court. You've built your own personal fiefdom, and you've increased your spending again and again and again while you pat yourselves on the back. And you can't take criticism, and you don't take debate. We have people who've run out of the room. They're so afraid to listen to someone. I would invite any of you to debate. Why don't you sit down and have it out? Why don't you have a talk about it? You had dozens and dozens of people come in here, and the message was clear again and again and again that they can't afford this ridiculous, absurd spending that you do, and you increase this personal fiefdom. You know, you spent over $300,000 on cameras in here. You spent $130,000 a year to turn on the YouTube video. You spent $600,000 on radios a couple years ago. Now you're talking about spending $400,000 on cars.
It's absurd. You're addicted to spending, and it's not something to be celebrated. It's not something to pat yourself up on the back. It's something to be embarrassed about. And you should be thinking, when you're patting yourself on the back, you should be thinking about the man that you're forcing from his home. And it wasn't just one of them, there was more than one. Two gentlemen who've been here over 50 years that you are forcing them from their home because you're addicted to spending, and you have your happy little social club where you rubber stamp everything that His Majesty, our comrade, the King, says. And that's an embarrassment. And it's something you should all be embarrassed about, and I think you are. And that's why you, although you have the courage to interrupt me illegally, you don't have the courage to debate me. I'll go to any coffee house in this town and debate you, but you won't, because you can't stand the questions. Because if I look you in the eye and say, how do you justify this theft of your neighbor's wages? How do you justify these people that you're forcing from their homes? You can't do it, because you're in your happy little social club where you're going and spending money with wild abandon. It's shameful and it's ridiculous, and you have nothing to be proud of. And I am glad that those are leaving, because you're an embarrassment, and I hope that you're replaced by people who have some modicum of respect for the voters and some kind of fiscal responsibility. So thank you very much.
Public schools. Where is Bill Hall when we need him?
All right, so where
Would anybody else like to speak?
Okay.
No?
Sam Farrington. I'm a student at the university. I'm also the prime sponsor of the Protecting College Students Act, Campus Carry, and that comes up time and time again at this council. The council passed a resolution condemning the Campus Carry bill, and so I figured, why not come to the council? And so it's my first time. I have the pleasure of knowing Wayne, but I don't know the rest of you. And so I know that Durham is a very, very liberal town, and you guys are sort of captured in your own bubbles without any differing perspectives. And when we do have the differing perspective, we start to act like children. We scream bloody murder and call people children and scream across the room in a public hearing. And so that's not how I believe that public officials should act. But nonetheless, as a legislator, my primary role is to defend the constitutional rights of individuals. And so I don't know whether you guys here take an oath of office to defend the Constitution, but even if you don't, you still should be concerned with that. And so when the town council passes a resolution opposing Campus Carry, you are tyrants. You are tyrants because you are stripping lawful adults of their individual rights. Rights that the Supreme Court has recognized time and time again. In 2008, it was in the Heller decision. In 2022, it was in the Bruin decision. Individuals have a natural right to bear arms.
It's not natural, sir. You're being ridiculous.
It is a natural right because natural rights transcend government. Natural rights come from God alone. And so what God gives, we cannot take away.
Could you be quiet, please?
What God gives, we cannot take away. But right now, that's what the university's doing. And so there's this survey going around from the Student Senate trying to kill the bill or whatever. But I want to make one thing clear for the record. Rights do not care what surveys feel. Rights are intended, and the whole reason why we have the Bill of Rights, it was to protect the minority. When the majority oppresses the minority, as this town council does time and time again, we just heard the testimony, how you guys are oppressing taxpayers in this town. And so I just wanted to give y'all a different perspective to perhaps enlighten you. Maybe to share the fact that 92% of all mass shootings happen in these so-called gun-free zones. And so if we actually care about safety in the town, if you as a town council cares about safety for the university students, then maybe you should take a look at it. Maybe you should look at the schools and the police response, because right now buildings are left wide open and anybody can go in at any point in time. And so present like an alternative. Like y'all are doing nothing about presenting an alternative, because it's only a matter of time until a tragic event like Brown comes to New Hampshire, and we want to do everything we can to prevent that. And so the number one way that I believe that we can do that is by respecting the individual rights that people have to defend themselves. And so with that, if there are any questions from the council, I would answer them happily.
Do you know what the First Amendment is?
It's the freedom of speech,
What's the other
of religion,
stuff, man? What's
of
the other
religion,
stuff?
of association.
It's RAPs, 5 of them.
To lobby,
Five.
to lobby the government.
No, that's not one of them.
It is to petition the government for a
RAPs,
redress.
man.
For redress of,
freedom of speech,
for redress
freedom
of
of
grievances.
petition, freedom of assembly, freedom of
Association
Council
and to
Register, this
petition the
is
government.
this is
Public
for the
hearing
public to
As
make
you
their
were, you're
comments.
right, I'm wrong. I apologize. That was inappropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Farrington.
Do you know
This
what
is-
Article
this-
2A of
this
the New
is
Hampshire
not a- This is
Constitution
not a
is?
debate. This is not a
You're right.
forum for
I
a debate.
apologize.
You're
That was my
welcome to
fault.
make your public comments, which you have, and that's
All
enough.
individuals have the natural right to keep and bear arms in defense of themselves, their families, their property, and the state. That was approved by a supermajority of Granite Staters in 1982, and that's on the books today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alexander Fenton, student at UNH. I wanted to speak. I want to speak
Can you
on.
say your address, please?
I'm at UNH. I'm a resident of the University of New Hampshire. I live in dorms, and I wanted to speak on HB 1793. Just as my fellow UNH student, fellow classmate did earlier today, just before me. I wanted to offer a student perspective to the town council. In resolution 2026-02, I believe it was passed that the Durham Town Council will oppose this bill. I'm very concerned with this decision from the town council. A person's constitutional rights should not disappear just because we step foot on a college campus. The Constitution matters to students just as much as it matters to any other adults in this state. And unfortunately, right now, New Hampshire does not protect the rights of college students. We're old enough to vote, we're old enough to sign contracts, we're old enough to be drafted in America's next war, and yet our rights are taken away. They are ignored by the universities which we attend. Every law-abiding adults should be able to enjoy the same constitutional rights. And a solution to this is HB 1793, also known as Campus Carry. It is a bill that should be celebrated, and it should be celebrated as an acknowledgement and a defense of the Constitution. I'm very disappointed in the town council's decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Michael Granger, and I live in 8 Water Street, Milton Mills. And I would like to thank Mr. Chair for his wonderful clerk who is able to keep time in a very stressful environment. That is something to be applauded. I do want to talk about decorum when you are in a committee. When you are in a committee, you get to listen to people say whatever they want. It doesn't matter if you think it's ridiculous. It doesn't matter if you disagree with them vehemently. It doesn't matter if you feel in the core of your being that you are being insulted at that moment. The job is to simply listen to what they have to say and consider what they have to say. You will have your vote. They don't have a vote. You will have your vote. They have their vote in March or whenever you guys do your elections. And on the topic of guns, I'm a co-sponsor of HB 1793, and the reason is very simple. I started carrying machine guns when I was 19 years old. I carried them in very dangerous environments. And you may say, well, you were in the military. You were trained for that sort of thing. I hate to break it to you. I'm gonna spill an egg that a lot of people don't know. Military training isn't actually that good. All right, you just kind of get used to it. You just carry the machine guns around, and eventually you'll get the hang of it. I don't think that the students at UNH are particularly immature or somehow less capable of handling responsibility than I was. I think that they should be able to carry a handgun on them. I think that they should be able to keep it for personal defense. It seems as though that in the modern political climate that we have, people bicker very loudly, and sometimes we've seen assassination attempts to occur. We have a radical leftist populace in some parts of the country who would be more than happy to murder me just for my political views. It is something that we see time and time again. We have had multiple attempts on the president's life simply because they disagreed with his politics and they want him dead for that. We saw Charlie Kirk, whose his moral obligation in life, his modus operandi, was to peacefully discuss and debate complex ideas, even ideas that people disagreed with, respectfully, and they killed him for it. They killed him in public in broad daylight. They blew a bullet right through him. All right? And this is the sort of thing that we need to discuss. All right? Campus Carry is an important bill for those of us who are a little bit concerned about the violent rhetoric being pushed at us by the leftists. All right? And also, guess what? The leftists, they have a right to defend themselves too. God has endowed us, each and every one of us, with the right, the fundamental natural right to keep and bear arms in defense of ourselves, because it is a natural extension of our right to life. Every human being has a right to live and let live. They have the right to respect the views of others and respect the lives of others. But they do have the right to defend themselves, because if you do not have the right to defend yourselves, that is the same as saying you do not have the right to be alive. A person who is not capable of defending themselves isn't a peaceful person. They are a harmless person. Do we want to live in a society where we have harmless people running things, or do we want to live in a world full of peaceful people, capable of inflicting violence, but choosing not to because they have strong moral convictions that prevent them from doing such things? I would leave you with this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, whether or not you guys agree with what the legislature does, God has given them their rights, and they will have the right to do it, whether or not that right is respected. Do we want to live in a world where violence is used against these people for protecting themselves? I certainly don't want to see it. That is why I am in support of Campus Carry. Thank you.
Praise Allah.
Hello, how are you guys doing today? My name is Sean McAlonis. I'm a former state rep, okay? I was a former Democratic state rep, so I have like no bearings on this, but I know, and I live in the city of Dover, but I came out here to kind of support Second Amendment rights, and I'm here to support some of the people in the audience. Two of the major things I want to tell you: decorum is super important. As an elected official, I agree with the state rep, Sam Farrington, on that. We can't, we all disagree on a lot of different topics, and it's left or right or whatever it could be. The most important thing is listen to people's opinions and give them the due respect that they deserve. That's the whole reason why you have a 5-minute talk. 5 minutes to speak or say what you got to say. We should not lose our control. We should not lose our temper. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's unacceptable. When it comes to Second Amendment, I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. Even as when I was a Democrat, I'm a Republican now, obviously. But at the end of the day, it's about protecting our rights. And these students at UNH deserve every constitutional right mandated by the federal government and the state of New Hampshire Constitution, hands down. If they want to carry out the campus, there's no reason why they can't. They're law-abiding, they're going to college, they're getting educated. We're talking about education in New Hampshire. UNH students have a really great education system. I'm assuming that you all agree with me on this. We shouldn't put any resolutions or anything to stop them from being able to carry on campus. There's no reason why we can't. Okay? At the end of the day, everybody behind me, the students at UNH, okay, they work hard every day. Some are concerned for their safety, some are not. Look at all the incidents that we had over the years, because I used to be a cop at one time back in Lawrence, Mass, before I moved up here. They have safety concerns too. I mean, if they want to carry a gun, let them carry a gun. If they want to carry a mace to protect themselves, they should be able to do that as well. You guys speaking up against them and going against their rights and their constitutional rights is unacceptable. People talking about taxes, about the community, people getting, sourced out. So we got people living here for 50, 60, 70 years, forcing them out of Durham because spending is out of control. At the end of the day, we have to hold ourselves accountable, and you guys need to hold yourself accountable. If you're spending too much money and it's outpricing people out, you got to stop. You got to figure out something. You know what I mean? But I really appreciate you giving me the time to speak. I really appreciate you guys in general. I appreciate everybody for standing up for their rights. I appreciate, the taxpayers of Durham. for standing up and speaking. It's not an easy situation to speak. You know, I'm nervous 90% of the time. I'm not the best public speaker, but at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, listening to each other, honoring what we're saying, and considering them. Please listen to what they're saying, and please rethink what you guys are deciding to do. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Michelonis?
Yes.
Would you please just spell your last name for the minutes?
Yes, it's like almost the whole alphabet. It's like A through Z. It's Michaelonis. My first name is not Seen. It's actually spelled the right way, Shawn. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.
Anybody else to speak? All right. Well, thank you all for your comments. We'll now move on to the unanimous consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull any of the items from that to discuss outside of unanimous consent?
Yeah, I was just wanting to check again. So honestly, I would like to pull all of them. And I hope that we can still get through them quickly, but I do think that we need to address some questions and concerns. And I also do want to, I mean, I may be presuming, but I want to give the opportunity for some of our counselors to perhaps recuse themselves from item number A as well. And and I think we had an interesting comment from the public as well on that. So I would like to pull all of them.
All right. So we'll go down them one at a time. Shall the town council pass, this is A on the agenda that had been unanimous consent that we will now consider individually. Shall the town council pass on first reading ordinance 2026-02, amending chapter 132, tax exemptions and credits, section 132.4, service-connected total disability veteran tax credit of the Durham Town Code, to increase the veteran tax credit threshold for veterans who are totally and permanently disabled to $4,500, and schedule a public hearing for Monday, March 23rd, 26. Would anybody like to make a motion regarding this measure?
I have a question. This doesn't mean we support it or against it. We're just setting up a public hearing.
Correct.
So I don't think really we have too much to talk about, Em, on this one.
Thank you. No, you're right. I will save it for the public hearing and perhaps come as a member of the public or be here otherwise. So.
Darcy Freer is here if anyone wants an explanation.
Yeah.
Councilor Burton?
You made a comment about recusing. I assume you were referring to me and as a veteran. I would not qualify for this exemption because I'm not 100%. I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, but I will recuse myself to make sure that that happens.
Would anybody like to make a motion on this for a
Just
first
to,
reading?
Go ahead and make my statement as well. I am 100% disabled. I do not feel the need to recuse myself on this particular issue. This is not my brainchild. I still represent the members of the public, and I am confident that I am not swayed one way or another by the financial incentive.
I don't know if that's good enough.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I would be interested, resident Jason Colleagues raised an interesting point or question.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be great to hear from Darcy Freer, assessor, about whether that's possible under the state law or not.
That was my
And
question,
might
is
be
the
helpful.
legality
Yeah,
of that.
I don't know the answer sitting here.
She would need that recruited to her, I think.
Somebody who's very tall. I am not. Actually, I did want to kind of clarify something on the credit. So it's not based on your percentage. It's based upon whether you are considered permanently and totally disabled. So we do have, I don't know about Durham, but I have had in the past residents who have been 80% disabled, but were considered permanently and totally disabled, and they do qualify for that credit. So it's not the percentage
that qualifies you. It's a question on a paper from the VA, and it says, are you considered to be permanently and totally disabled? If the answer is yes, then they are qualified.
And to give some lightening about what those terms mean, the VA disability system has a reevaluation process. If the percentage of disability that you have is mitigatable or remediated, so it is not considered permanent and total, it is considered temporary in status. And so you have reassessments every 5, 10, 15 years or whatever based off of that initial rating. If you are considered permanent and total, they never look at your package again. And so that is a very small percentage of the disabled veterans who are already a minuscule percentage of the town.
So is the 80% permanently and totally disabled? Is there a floor of permanently and totally disabled when they do these evaluations?
Not to my knowledge.
So you could be 20%?
I've never seen it, but I don't know if that's a
You would not
possibility.
get a P&T for 20%, no, but you could get a permanent rating for 20%, yes. P&T being permanent and total.
Do we know, is there a number?
I can look that up and come back with you if you want me to
50%?
take that on.
Perhaps it comes out at the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
And we
I
do
can make
some
sure I find that
further review
information
on
out.
that, if the public hearing moves forward. Councilor Welsh?
Yes, I'd like to know, Darcy, if you could tell us or give us an estimate of what it will cost the other taxpayers if we do this.
So absolutely nothing, because what went through state legislature last year, effective this year, was that these veterans could no longer receive the optional veterans credit that we have at 500 and the additional
Okay, yes,
permanently
I
and
remember.
totally.
Okay.
So this is just to fill in that gap, because at this point, if we don't adopt this, they will lose the extra $500 for their optional credit, because state legislature no longer allows us to combine the two.
Yep, thank you.
So this is increasing it to $4,500 from $4,000, but at the same time, they will be losing the $500 because of the state law change.
Correct. So they'll see a net neutral across the board. If it's not to be adopted, they will see a negative 500 in their credit.
Thank you.
And the town's budget is net neutral too.
Yeah.
I also think it's just helpful to revisit some of these questions, because a lot of people were perhaps not paying attention as much last year and have more concerns now, and it could just can be helpful to the public to be kind of explaining where these decisions are coming from.
And insofar as Mr. Colleague's request for the percentages to be adopted for the credits, the state law does not allow for that. It's very specific. It's X amount, whatever is adopted by every city and town, and that is across the board. If you are considered permanently and totally, you get this amount. So.
Okay, then I will go ahead and make a motion that the town council does hereby pass on first reading ordinance. Make a motion that the town council pass on first reading the ordinance 2026-02, amending chapter 132, tax exemptions and credits, section 132-4, service-connected total disability veteran tax credit of the Durham Town Code, to increase the veteran tax credit threshold for veterans who are totally and permanently disabled to $4,500, and schedule a public hearing for Monday, March 23rd, 2026.
I'd like to second.
Second, thank you. Is there any further comment or discussion? Okay, Counselor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vote, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sonia Dell, aye.
Wayne Burton, I'm going to recuse myself. I'm only at 60%. If you keep having meetings like this, I might get to 100.
Carol Ford, aye.
Curtis Racer, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Freer. All right, 9B, this is a 9B, 9C, and 9D. We can do them one at a time. The first one, 9B, is regarding phases 4A and 4B of the Madbury Road Complete Streets.
So the reason I pulled it is I think it would be helpful to provide the public with some additional context. And one of the first questions I had for our town staff is if the town were to not award these contracts at this time, would it change the 2026 budget and change residents' tax bills come December 2026?
No, it would not change residents' tax bills for 2026 because the project would be bonded and the tax implications would not come into effect until 2028. That's when the debt would come due and we would begin to make payments at that time. And if you'd like to know in terms of what the payments would be, if that would be helpful, I did some estimates today. And so for Madbury Road Phase 4A, which would run Edgewood to Garrison, Edgewood to Emerson, the amount to be bonded would be $1,374,020 over we would bond that likely for 20 years. And the interest rate that the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank achieved in January of this year was 3.43%. So at that rate, the year one principal interest payment would be approximately $115,830. And again, and that would be payable in 2028. And that would have a, for that section, I estimate an impact of approximately 5 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation, which would mean for what I would call an average priced home of $650,000 in Durham, the additional cost for that person's tax bill would be approximately $32.50 in 2028. Now, the next project, Madbury Road Phase 4B, Emerson Road to Route 4, the amount to be bonded there would be $1,530,400. And, hold on, yes, and the debt service payment for 2028 is estimated to be $129,013. That would have approximately a 6-cent increase in someone's tax rate in that year. And for a $650,000 home, the amount is about $39. So if we were to add the two together, 32 to 39 is $71.50 approximately would be the combined impact in that year. Now, that assumes that we would bond the two sections, 4A and 4B. It assumes that interest rate. The interest reduces over the life of the bond. The principal payments are the same, but interest reduces. So over time, that interest trails off. The year 20 interest payment for Phase 4A, let me just see. 20 is approximately $71,000. And for the 4B, it's approximately $79,000. So again, there's a savings on interest over the life of the bond. And if the town came up with a different way to fund some of the cost of that project, such that we didn't have to bond at all, then the cost implications might change. So for example, hypothetically, if the year-end audit for fiscal year 2025, which we don't yet have, we won't have that until probably late summer, if that showed we picked up an additional $1 million in unassigned fund balance, either by under-expending the 2025 budget or bringing in revenue in excess of what was projected for 2025, hypothetically, the council could choose to use some of that cash to pay for the project, and that would bring down the debt service, and that would then not have a tax impact.
And you mentioned, a grant connected to that project the grant requirements, has that grant been awarded, and do we have to expend certain monies this year in order to keep that grant?
So I'm going to, Rich Rain, our Public Works Director, is with us, and I think he's able to comment on that.
Yeah, again, good evening. So the grant has not been awarded yet. It's a TAP grant, a Transportation Alternative Program grant for about $1.8 million. The grant has been viewed very favorably by the various entities that vetted that and that made recommendations. It started with the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, moved on to the New Hampshire DOT, moved to the governor and council, who made a recommendation to the governor as part of the 10-year transportation plan, and the governor has included that in her recommendation to the legislature. So we're now looking at the overall transportation improvement plan that the legislature votes on. There's about 17 TAP projects in that plan. Durham's is one of those at $1.8 million. And once that gets approved by the legislature, DOT will program that in to their overall 10-year plan. They have a placeholder in there for 2033 construction, I believe, but it's quite often they bring that forward to a year that is probably in line with what we hope it will be, 2027-28 construction, and that's when we would move into construction on that shared use pathway. But the accommodations for that pathway are necessary when we look at 4A and 4B to ensure that it is in the right location and the roadway is constructed in the correct location.
So if we were to delay, say, phase 4B or phase, that would make us ineligible for that grant?
I don't think we'd be ineligible for the grant. It would add a significant level of complexity to the overall program. And we would also be looking at significantly higher costs for 4B, either a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever time frame. Any time we push it out, it's hard to read the future, but historically what we've seen over the last 5-6 years has been considerable escalation in construction pricing. We were told that the suppliers for this project to our contractor, GW Brooks, one of the suppliers is Pike, and they indicated that and they supply a lot of the aggregate material, the material that's used in the construction of the roadway and other components. They've held the price now for multiple years. Everyone else has got 20% price increases, and this is the last year they are willing to hold the price to Brooks. So we would see right off the bat a significant price increase in those types of materials.
And like if we were to split 4A and 4B, and currently 4A has already been torn up, the phase 4B what is the construction status of that now? Is that roadway already been torn up as well?
Yeah, Councilor Friedrichs, the roadway, entirely is in horrendous condition. It's probably one of our worst roads in town with probably one of the highest traffic counts in town. The water main installation, which was necessitated based on break history and condition of the pipe, put a trench in the roadway. We actually put a temporary patch on that trench, understanding that if we were to invest in a permanent patch, it would be much more expensive, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a permanent patch. And we had the potential that we'd be doing 4A and 4B and destroying that patch entirely. So it would have been a very poor investment with no real return. So so that patch right now is contributing to the overall condition of the roadway. But even within even if kind of putting the patch aside, the roadway is in awful condition and it needs full rehabilitation.
And just as a comment, the road was in horrible condition prior to being dug up and all the pipes having to be redone, because it was up for needing paving anyway, and years ago, I think.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's got to have been the last street in Lincoln for paving. since I've been here.
Yeah, so Councilor Grant is exactly right. And just in terms of a little bit of background, we've, over the last 15 years, 20 years, received numerous complaints from residents living on Madbury Road about speed in particular. And we had tried a number of pilot efforts to address speed, which some were effective, some were not. But we learned a lot and the council realized something needed to be done. And so we put off repaving the road to align with water line and sewer line replacement, because it's important to only rip up the road once. And we made sure all those projects could happen in tandem as a efficiency cost savings measure. And combined with that, the Public Works Department worked to do a complete design of Madbury Road, soliciting tremendous feedback from residents on Madbury Road in the community. There were several forums at the public library where engineers had different options, and residents came and had sticky notes to offer feedback, and all of that was incorporated into a plan. And then as part of the 2024 proposed capital budget, and you can see it's on the cover of Madbury Road. It was for a reason, to be really overt. We were talking about Madbury Road. It essentially was the first time there was a major proposal to outline the cost implications of the project over a 3 or 4 year span. And since then, the town has, per the council's directive, has been working toward the redesign. And so I just wanted to note some of that history for you.
So I think that's why, I mean, it makes sense, right, to dig all the way along and get that work done. But everybody was counting on the fact we would follow through, because we can't live with it the way it is. And I think that, I mean, it's just common sense that it has to be done. I only had one question just before Wayne goes. Is the price, just into the specifics, the price for B is like at 1.5? And A from Edgewood to Emerson is a longer length than from Emerson to the 4. And I'm trying to figure out, is it that costly from Emerson to the 4 because of more modifications based on the traffic circle?
It's shale, isn't it?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Yes.
No, not necessarily. I think it's really where the break point is, how many square yards in each segment, are we dealing with? And 4B is a larger segment. We also are looking at the drainage that we were able to construct as part of the first phase, which included the Little Hill Culvert project on Madbury and Edgewood Road. We were able to get that paid through an SRF grant with a portion of principal forgiveness. So we extended that up into the 4A a little bit farther than the culvert, which defrayed some of those costs for this upcoming project 4A. And we also see there is some ledge in 4B that we are going to have to hammer out, and that's going to accommodate the new drainage system to alleviate the flooding that constantly occurs in even just minor storm events. So the break point was what influenced that, plus the level of effort in the 4B is going to be larger.
Okay.
Councilor Burton?
Just a quick note, in 1980, late 1989, 90, there was a plan to build an east-west highway from Concord to Portsmouth, and 393 was built. It was supposed to come all the way, but the plan for Durham, which was the original plan for access to Durham, was to block Madbury Road, and that's where Edgewood Road Extension goes across, and it was going to go out to the highway. And so Madbury Road was never intended to be the main access road. It was going to go through the Horty Farm. Somehow UNH stopped that, and then so Madbury Road it's the gateway road to the town, and the first thing they see is potholes, no sidewalks. I've almost got hit there. Kids waiting for school buses, no curbs. In fact, the only accident we've had in the 50 years I've been there was when a car hit the speed bump, went off the road into the curb, and broke an axle. And so I hope that we can finish the project I have one more comment, Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me. The reason I called the point of order was that in our meeting agenda, we have a statement saying the public comment portion of the council meeting is to allow members of the public to address matters of public concern regarding town government for up to 5 minutes. Obscene, violent, disruptive, disorderly comments or those likely to induce violence, disruption, or disorder are not permitted and will not be tolerated. Complaints regarding town staff should be directed to the administrator. And that's why I called the point of order. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to talk about that further, we could talk about that at the round table.
I think it's worth reading again at the round table, Councilor Burton.
That'd be fine.
I just want to make sure people who are watching now, because there won't be people watching roundtable.
Well, it belongs in comments of the roundtable, though. We're discussing Madbury Road right now, and we do have a full agenda. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that the Durham Town Council hereby, upon recommendation of the administrator, award the construction contracts for the Phase 4A and 4B Madbury Road Complete Streets, Roadway, Drainage, and Streetscape Project to G.W. Brooks and Sons, Inc., for a total price not to exceed $2,450,534, subject to available funding, and authorizes the administrator to sign associated documents.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion about Madbury Road?
Yeah, I have a comment. You know, we have a real problem in 2028. Anyone who's looked forward into the forecast, we always have a 10-year forecast of spending, and if we approve of these two, it makes the problem really difficult. So I'm tempted to approve them, but just remember, this means we can't do everything. So this is going to push out some other things that maybe some of us want to do. But if you really want to do this, we're not going to be able to do other things. And the next, I think the next 2 budget meetings are going to be very difficult. It will be great if we can underspend this year like we did last year. Last year was, you know, kind of unusually strong restraint on spending. We saved $1 million versus the budget, basically. And if we can do that again, that can help with this.
I might follow on with that comment by saying also that not only if we can achieve savings and our expenses, if we can identify and truly forecast additional revenue coming into the town, we may be able to do some of the projects that you're saying we won't be able to do in the future. But yes, we don't have unlimited funds, and we need to both control our expenses and, I believe, try to increase the revenues coming into town if we want to do all the things that we want to do. Anybody else have any comments? We'll go ahead and vote. Councilor Nito?
Sonia Dell, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Curtis Register, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vote, aye.
Hem Friedrichs, aye.
Joe Friedman? Aye. All right, thank you. Next, we will consider the paving contracts for phases 4A and 4B. Councilor Friedrich?
So I would just say, speaking of things that we wish we could do, and we need to start thinking about what we're not going to do and not going to be bonding, I think we need to look a little more closely at the upcoming contracts. And, you know, that may mean delaying some road maintenance because we have these big bonding projects coming up in the next coming years, including Madbury Streets, which was already dug up. So that's why I pulled this. I think that we need to start putting some things on the back burner that we had planned to do, but we really just do not have the finances. Until the finances appear, then we can readjust.
This item, though, is part of 4A and 4B. You understand that, right? This is the paving, unless you want us to be driving over.
The streets are
gravel.
in E, 9E. All the
Sorry,
streets.
I
That's okay.
thought we had, I thought
That's
the 3 parts were passed together.
You know.
You had requested to pull them all, so we're doing A, B, C, D, E at a time. And C is the paving for Madbury Road.
My apologies. I was
Okay.
looking ahead to the sidewalk and road program E. So that was what my, was addressed to.
Sure. Counselor
Yeah.
Liddell?
I move the Durham Town Council does hereby, upon recommendation of the administrator, award the paving contract for the Madbury Road Complete Streets Phase 4A and 4B roadway drainage streetscape project to Continental Paving Incorporated of Londonderry, New Hampshire, for a total price not to exceed $444,382, subject to available funding, and authorizes the administrator to sign associated documents.
Second that.
Is there any further discussion on that? Counselor Friedrich?
Aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Curtis Register, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Signed, Adele, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye. And now consider the roadway drainage streetscape for phases 4A and 4B to have VHB engineers monitor and in some way supervise that project. Councilor Friedrichs, we were expecting this as part of the overall?
Yes, sorry, I
That's
thought we
okay.
were grouping, because
That's
in the
okay.
council communication, B, C, and D were grouped together.
Yes.
I thought we
Yep.
were.
You want to go ahead and read it?
Sure, I'll do this one too.
Yes.
I move the Durham Town Council does hereby, upon recommendation of the administrator, award the construction inspection, design, and administration contract for the Phase 4A and 4B Madbury Road Complete Streets Roadway Drainage Streetscape and Water Utility Project to VHB Engineers of Bedford, New Hampshire, for a total price not to exceed $244,034, subject to available funding, and authorizes the administrator to sign associated documents.
Is there a
Second that.
Second. Thank you, Councilor Grant. Any further discussion about this item? Councilor Friedrichs?
Aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Curtis Register, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Signed, Adele, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye. And now it's the paving of other streets in town, for which we were given a map to consider that. Did you want to say more?
No, I
Councilor
said my piece earlier. so.
Okay.
Could I just,
Yeah, please.
just in terms of the paving contract, let me just see. The total dollar amount for 2026 is $846,000. That includes three portions. $275,000 of that is actually paving on UNH roadways, and those are paid for by UNH. UNH will reimburse the town for those costs. This is one example of a partnership between Durham and UNH, where Durham is able to get more competitive paving pricing than UNH because we do much more paving annually. But by including UNH's paving program in our paving program, we're able to get even a better price because it's a larger program. So it's, again, a great example of collaboration. $55,000 of the project is our sidewalk program for 2026. That is a zero impact to the tax rate because we charge a additional fee for motor vehicle registrations, and that I believe it's $5 per registration, goes into a separate fund that can be used for pedestrian and bicycle and non-vehicular type improvements in town. And so that's where the $55,000 would be charged, which leaves a remaining sum of $516,000 to be covered by the budget. And I'll just note that our practice has been to pay cash for roadway repaving, our general program. We target approximately $500,000 a year. That does fluctuate. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a lot more. It depends. But the goal is around $500,000 to $600,000 a year. Because we pay cash, and it's more or less the same amount each year, there's not necessarily an increase by doing the program. We keep it level. The savings would be if we chose not to do the program. So for example, if we did not fund $516,000 of our road program and we simply did not spend that extra $500,000, that would equate to approximately a 24-cent reduction in the tax rate, and that equates to approximately $156 on a $650,000 house. But we do need to maintain our roads. We have a very detailed system that Public Works uses to rate the roads, and the roadways that we are endeavoring or recommending paving are all, they all warrant paving work. And with many of these roadways, if we don't tackle them now, the cost only gets more expensive by waiting because we lose the underlying base of the roadway. So Public Works and I would recommend moving forward with the project, but I would absolutely concur with the points that have been made that the Madbury Road project is very expensive. We've highlighted as being expensive from the very start through each of the budget processes. The council's known that. And perhaps when we get into 2027 or 2028, maybe we'll make a decision to reduce spending on roadways for a period of time to help offset that debt service. Or perhaps a reduction is elsewhere. Or perhaps we don't do some other project that's in our CIP to address. But all of that would be taken into account as we're moving into the 2027 and then 2028 budget processes.
Am I correct in assuming that this contract cannot be split up? I mean, that the bid offer was for all three components, and so we'd have to set it out to bid again if we were adjusting for, say, 2 out of 3 of the components?
So I'm going to look to Rich Rain. We're using Continental Paving, and Continental has been willing to more or less hold their price for us, which is a couple of years old. And the reason is because we have a very good program. Durham is efficient in the paving work. It's a more or less a fast in and fast out with minimal hassle in Durham. And so we've had a very cost-effective relationship with Continental. But I'll look to Rich Rain to comment.
No, that's all accurate, Todd. And I think the other point is when they look at a project like this, they distribute their overhead over the project that we presented to them. If we cut back by half or a third or 2/3, they're going to have a lot less contract value to distribute that overhead and profit around. So we would have to go back and renegotiate with them to determine, how much of an increase they would be looking at. We are, as Todd points out, we are very fortunate to be working with Continental because not only are they one of the highest quality paving contractors in the area, but they have chosen to give us some extremely competitive pricing at $86.43 per ton compared to some of the others that we've seen at $97 or even $110 per ton. So yeah, that would be a difficult discussion with them if we cut back on the volume of work that we're proposing.
Yeah, I'd just like to note also for full transparency that I live on Noble K. Peterson Drive, which is one of the roadways that is up for repaving, and I have played no part in scheduling that roadway. It's all coming from Public Works, so just to let you know.
I will say I checked that out, and it hasn't been done since 2009, so
yes,
it's probably okay.
I can attest to that publicly.
How's Fairfield doing there, or whatever?
Our Fairchild isn't being done.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that the Durham Town Council hereby, upon recommendation from the administrator, award the 2026 Road and Sidewalk Program to Continental Paving, Inc. of Londonderry, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $846,000, and authorize the administrator to sign the associated contract. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Nadell?
Signed, Adele, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Curtis Fraser, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vogt, aye.
M. Friedrichs, nay.
Joe Friedman, aye. All right. Now we will consider the purchase of 2 new 6-wheel international dump trucks with diesel engines. And just understand that F is the engines and G is the bodies and chassis, and G is the equipment that goes on top of it all. Counselor Friedrichs, you wanted these pulled as well?
Again, I think just considering how much we are bonding, we need to really look at what purchases and costs can we push out a little bit further. Even if it may long-term cause some increases in terms of the amount that we pay, we need a steady tax rate. We need a
More tax base.
well, we need a tighter budget until we can come up with a steadier tax rate. And so that is my concern.
Are these being bonded?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did speak with Rich Rain today. Same idea as M's having. Can we push some of this back? And his response, and he can jump in here if he wants, is that the refurbishment of these trucks would not extend their life long enough to justify the cost of the refurbishment. So it seems like it would be penny wise but pound foolish to refurbish these, and then a few years later other things would break down and then we'd have to buy new ones. So, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but that's the problem with delaying it.
No, I think that's accurate, what we talked about, Cardin. I think, yeah, I'll just explain that these trucks are on a 10-year replacement schedule. We look at 10 years and determine, okay, is that in a condition that it needs to be replaced? Can we push it out a year or two? And then from the time that we actually order the truck, it's another year to put that in service. The lead times are that long for the cabin chassis and then the bodies. These trucks are used, they're frontline pieces of equipment. We have 6 trucks plus a backup. All of these trucks are run very hard in very harsh conditions. So for example, each one of these 6-wheel trucks with front plows and wings and sanders are involved in all of our snow responses. So we'll probably be looking at close to 25 responses, long-term responses this week, with potentially some weather coming in. They work in very corrosive environments, so it doesn't take long for electrical systems to corrode. We have emissions and DEF systems on them that need constant maintenance and replacement. Suspensions, body work, all these things are part of what we do when it comes to a truck. And we're at the point at 10, 11 years when we look at that and say, all right, it's almost like having a personal car and you have 200,000 miles on it. It's worth, a couple $1,000s. Do you want to put $10,000 into it for a transmission and a motor and brakes and electrical and water pumps and all that? And then once you do that, you have other components starting to fail and you continue to have to dump money into it. So there was a good point that was brought up about the details in that second paragraph. I looked at that again. We did have these discussions during our budget, meetings about what the cost of these types of components are and the replacement and why we're making these recommendations. But I would estimate, to refurbish one of these trucks to get an extra couple of years out of them, we're probably looking anywhere between $60,000 and $100,000 for the equipment that's necessary. And that's why we look at this very closely and make these recommendations. We understand they're expensive pieces of equipment, but we do use them every day, especially for our emergency response needs.
Any other questions on that? So I'd gotten some questions today from counselors. So in terms of paying for this, we would typically bond the dump trucks. We typically do a 10-year bond. The January bond issue from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank rate was 2.57%. I did some calculating today, and that would end up being an annual payment in year one of about $28,186 approximately. That payment would taper down at the end of 10 years to approximately $23,000. The tax impact
probably in 2027, but it really depends upon when the truck comes in. And we're not sure. There's been a delay on ordering a lot of our equipment. But estimated for 2027, a 1 cent increase in the tax rate, which would be for someone with a $650,000 house, which I'm estimating is an average price for Durham, that is a $6.50 increase in the tax rate for them.
So,
Payment.
their taxes.
Their taxes, I'm sorry. Okay. And that impact would taper down somewhat over time as the interest drops.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Durham Town Council does hereby, upon recommendation of the administrator, authorize the purchase of 2 new 2027 HV 507 SFA 6-wheel international dump trucks with Cummins L9 diesel engines from Allegiance Trucks of Manchester, New Hampshire, in the amount of $224,230.
I'll second that.
Is there any further conversation about that?
I'll just say, I think that in the future, it would be very helpful to have the estimates in terms of the refurbishment and how long, I mean, and thank you for that sharing information now, but having that information in advance, and also how long of a life extension that would be estimated to add, if it's 1 year versus if it's 4 years, for each of those components would be really useful in such tight budget times.
Yeah, can I respond to that?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll certainly try to do that. I think it's kind of difficult because in order to do that, we'll need to, rip the entire truck apart to give you a firm estimate of what that would cost. I also wanted to point out what would be indicative of the value of this truck is the trade-in value being offered. And the trade-in value you can see is pretty minimal for this truck. I think it's $25,000. So I'll keep that in mind, and I'll see if I can have that information, at least kind of a general estimate of those costs next time we come forth to the council.
Okay. Councilor Nudell?
Okay, so...
To vote, unless you wanted to make a comment.
No, thank you. Sally Nidell, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Curtis Register, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote aye.
M. Friedrichs, nay.
Joe Friedman, aye. And
Thank you all.
you got to get your equipment on top, so if you just wait 1 minute, we're going to vote on the next one.
Sorry about that.
And I'll go ahead and make a motion that the town council does hereby, upon recommendation of the administrator, authorize the purchase of 2 new 2026 conventional stainless steel dump body material spreader, front and wing plows, and Cirrus Freedom sander control from Viking Sieves of Lewiston, Maine, in the amount of $217,110.
I'll second the motion.
Councilor Friedrichs, did you want to comment?
Well, I'm assuming that if we're purchasing the trucks, we don't have equipment that will outfit them unless we vote on this, so.
That's right.
All right. Any other comments? Yes, please.
I can comment, this would be bonded over a 10-year period to coincide with the truck. The rate would be 2.57%. That equates to an annual payment of approximately $27,291, which will taper off over the life of the bond to a low end at year 10 of $22,269, more or less. And this is estimated to have a 1 cent tax impact in either 27, probably, or maybe 28. And for a $650,000 house, that would be $6.50.
Thank you. Yes? All right. Councilor Friedrichs, we'll vote on this now?
Well, if we already have the trucks, we best at least have them operational, so aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Curtis Register, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Sally Nidell, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Committee appointments. Do you want to speak for the Conservation Commission? Do you want to, how do you want to go forward with the
We haven't met
recommendation?
since we last met here.
I'm saying for the committee appointment.
Oh.
For the Conservation
Just
Commission.
to read the motion. Thinking, or just,
You could do that.
or just start the discussion?
I've got it right.
Somebody else could.
Shall the town council, upon recommendation of the Conservation Commission Chair, appoint Julian Smith, 3 Chesley Drive, to an unexpired alternate membership position on the Conservation Commission with a term expiration of 4/27? I'll make that a motion.
Make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And is there any discussion? Mr. Smith, would you like to say anything?
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just lost my transmitter. I attended some of the first meetings of the new Conservation Commission in 1965. And I've attended many meetings over many years, and I served on the Conservation Commission for 5 or 6 years at least as the planning board representative to the Conservation Commission. And I own 2 parcels in conservation down on the coast of Georgia. So I am a firm supporter of conservation, but I do have some reservations about some of the recommendations or some of the proposed ordinances in the new WSOD, and I welcome the opportunity to be able to help the Conservation Commission understand some of the significant objections they've been having. So I thank you. I hope you will appoint me, and I will now sit down. Thank you.
Will you take
Unless
any
you have questions.
Will you take any questions? Will you take any questions?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Let me plug this in so I can hear. I did not conserve my hearing, so a big mistake. I'm sorry to be so clumsy. It's okay. I'll get it. So, go ahead. Now I can hear you.
Can you hear okay? Can you hear okay? Can you hear? Are you able to hear all right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I have
Councilor Neal?
Julian, I appreciate your interest in, joining another commission here for the town of Durham. But I do have a concern. You've been quite outspoken about your opposition to the removal of the Mill Pond Dam.
Yes.
And at previous meetings, like the meeting we had today, you brought it up. So your interest in joining the Conservation Commission seems at odds with their past work. And is it your intention to continue to fight the Mill Pond Dam removal
I'm
while
not
serving
fighting
on
it.
the Conservation Commission?
I would like to conserve the Mill Pond Dam as an historic part of our history. It serves a function. It keeps silt out of the Oyster River, out of the bay. It traps toxic material coming down from other towns, from parking lots, from many miles away from Durham. So I don't see any inconsistency. And I'm hoping that the Conservation Commission will take an interest in what happens next once the dam is removed. I hope Parks and Recreation will take an interest in what happens next. So I don't see the contradiction.
Are you aware of the 2 statements that were made by the Conservation Commission during the look at the future of the dam? One was from January 2021. In advance of the vote to remove the dam, the Conservation Commission stated the following. The Conservation Commission recommends the Town Council move forward with alternative number 5, for removal of the Mill Pond Dam as the alternative that will bring about the widest range of environmental benefits. The motion passed unanimously with one abstention. In their explanation, the Conservation Commission cited environmental benefits that included fish passage, water quality, sediment transport, wetland restoration. And they also noted that removing the dam would not address all the environmental stressors, including nutrient input, tributary management, and additional fish passage upriver. Then later, before the vote in March 2022, they shared additional statement. And I think part of it aligns with what you're saying, but I'm going to read these in reverse order. The decision comes before us during unprecedented worldwide losses of biodiversity and natural habitats, climate change and its outcomes, ocean acidification, sea level rise, altered rainfall regimes, and more, and unsustainable rates of resource consumption are accelerating those losses. Removing the dam and restoring the tidal river presents a rare opportunity to build resilience against those growing threats and reclaim a piece of what has been lost. We simply need the vision and the will to move toward a new future for the Oyster River watershed.
If I was aware of that several years ago, because I watched a number of meetings while I was away taking care of my wife, the Oyster River can never be restored to its natural condition. By the time English settlers arrived in what became the Oyster River Plantation, the river was no longer flowing in its natural state, which ended once French and English fur trappers bought beaver hides from the Native Americans. Beavers, for thousands of years, had protected the Oyster River from sediment. And I would hope when the dam is removed that the town will allow and encourage the growth, rather the restoration of the more natural habitat that came before English and French settlement in this area. Beaver dams, small beaver dams, several hundred feet or yards apart, would not stop small fish from moving up and down. I would, as a member of the Conservation Commission, if I'm appointed, advocate for that. I might not convince others to share my view, but that is part of what we do on these boards. So, does that answer your question?
Well, yes and no, because it still doesn't. I am concerned that your energy and the Conservation Commission energy will go to debating removing of the dam, and that's a decision that has been made.
No, the decision to remove the dam has been made, and the only place I could debate it would be with you, members of the council.
And why is it appropriate to debate it with us?
Because I think the council has made a mistake in a number of ways. The VHB report is a great example of what is called confirmation bias. They were hired to make a recommendation that they knew they were expected to make. They could have made another recommendation, but they chose not to.
They gave us 5 options.
Yes.
One of which was leaving it alone.
Yes.
Although it's somewhat in conflict with what we learned from New Hampshire DES, which is a requirement to either fix it or take it out. So that's where the town was left initially. But we were given the option of letting it remain. The downside to that is those things that you're trying to protect by keeping the dam there, when the dam fails, they will enter the rest of the Oyster River without any modification that can be done through the process of removing this dam in a controlled fashion.
I suspect if the dam fails, it will fail slowly, and it can be repaired. Or the town could simply bring in a lot of granite boulders. We have no shortage of granite boulders in New Hampshire, and provide a buttress for the dam, or remove the failed dam. It's not going to suddenly burst unless we have a humongous ice pack that suddenly lets loose.
Can I?
Yes, so, okay.
Okay.
Please.
Mr. Smith, you seem to be lobbying to have the dam remain, despite the fact that you're saying now that you don't want it to remain, but you've been around to multiple committees
Yes.
lobbying for this decision to stay open, a decision that has been to take the dam down, that has been supported by numerous environmental groups, by numerous business organizations, by people that care about the financial and the conservation goals of this town. It was voted twice in a very overwhelming motion by the council, and it was voted 70% by the town to do this, and it would seem that this would be a great waste of time to continue talking about it. It has already cost us money, the delays and the delaying tactics that those opponents have used. And I'll just say to the rest of the council that I do not intend to vote for Mr. Smith because of what he said about this dam and what he continues to say about this dam, and with no progress going forward.
Does anyone else have a question?
I have a comment, if I could,
Thank you.
Mr. Smith. I just wanted to say that you had a good idea with the accessibility of the hard copy of the VHB report in the libraries. I don't know if that's something that is already occurring or not, but I would happily front the cost if it's cost prohibitive. I think that's a great idea to have a physical copy that people could check out at the library.
Thank you for that.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Certainly.
Whether it's the library, it is all on our website, and it's
on the
important to
website.
note, it is
Anybody
not
can read it.
simply that one report. There were numerous reports, and there were reports and feedback from the public, and that generated additional questions by the council to VHB, which VHB came and answered. There was then additional questioning from the public, and the council went back a second time. And I do just want to correct for the record something that you've said, Mr. Smith, to me and again publicly tonight. Your assumption that VHB was told the conclusion that the town wanted, and that is inaccurate. The direction to VHB was to honestly study that dam and all of the factors around it, and to give us their best guidance, and that is what they provided us. There was no prejudgment on the part of the town in the direction VHB was given. And VHB was selected because they were involved with the town of Exeter as part of a very similar controversial process on what to do with the great dam in Exeter. And a group of us went over to tour that facility, to talk with Exeter about what happened, and we felt that VHB was ideally situated because they had gone through a similar really controversial and complex analysis in a community that was tremendously divided, just as Durham was, regarding a natural resource. And that's how this played out. And also, I just want to note, I received an email from April Talon, our town engineer, because you had asked me 2 weeks ago, and then just before the meeting, what was the cost of the VHB study? And April Talon responded it was $330,000. So that's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
And not just for that report, but
there were other studies.
the process. Right.
I'm getting the impression that my application, my volunteer, is unwelcome. But let me say this about the Department of Environmental Services. They do not provide environmental services. Beavers, other critters provide environmental services. And some critters, of course, and some humans provide disservices to the environment. And one day I would love to be able to sit down with some of you and talk to you about the years I spent dealing with a young graduate of the University of Florida who graduated from the English department the year I arrived and studied law. And I had to explain some things to her. At one point, her name was Carol Browner, and you may recognize that as the longest serving head of the EPA. She gave me an order to restore about 200 yards of a ditch behind my property. I had a large property in Gainesville, Florida, with 7 or 8 abutters. She said I was to restore it to its natural condition. So I supplied her with a series of geological survey maps which showed that there was no ditch, no creek, no brook, no watershed there, that the thing I had helped stop erosion was a result of putting a storm sewer onto this property many years before. And the storm sewer pipe was 16 inches in diameter, and as the area developed, a 24-inch storm sewer was hooked up to the start of the 16-inch storm sewer, which washed out and took away thousands of cubic yards of soil and sent it downstream into a major brook running through the city. And then she backed off, and Bill Clinton, a student I first met at Georgetown, appointed her to her new job, and she did a great job. So sometimes experts are not necessarily right on all things, and I'm certainly wrong on many things. And I apologize for taking up so much of your time tonight. I hope you will give a different voice a chance on the Conservation Commission, so I can speak more quietly and don't have to limit myself to 5 minutes from time to time. So thank you.
Comments?
Anyone else?
Just a quick comment. The vote to pull the dam was 8-1, and I was the one vote who opposed it. And I accept that the vote that happened later on, Newmarket voted not to pull their dam. Exeter pulled their dam, and they have a hologram. You can see it in the library. It's not the same thing. But there was a case for keeping it. And I don't want all the people in Durham that rallied around the dam should not be in any way vilified. We had our experts too. But there was a nationally funded organization, I think the Wildlife Federation, all kinds of folks came in. They're pulling dams all over New England. They did the one in Camden, Maine, which breaks my heart. But I just want to say something for them too. There was a case made for keeping it. And the main reason many people voted to keep the dam was there's going to be federal money to pay for it. As I recall...
To remove it.
To remove it, yeah. And now, I don't know if we're going to get the federal money.
We have received quite a lot of federal money. There's still some that we were awarded, but it now was on hold, and I'm not holding my breath.
That's a good thing, and I'm not...
Yeah.
But at the time when the dam was sold, it was sold on the fact that we'd get federal money to pay for it. Well, at least that's
That was never a guarantee.
No, it wasn't. But that was the argument made by the pro-pull people. and that's all I'm saying. And I was here, I listened, but I went up, I left the council, not because of the dam.
Councilor Grant?
Well, I think we're getting off topic,
Very much.
because we do have
Other things to
a
do.
proposal
Councilor
here.
Friedrich?
I just wanted to speak directly to the appointment, and I am a proponent of having minority views in the room. And I am comforted by the fact that the chair, Dwight Trueblood, felt comfortable recommending Julian Smith's appointment to the committee. And so I do feel that if the chair feels comfortable with Julian Smith's appointment, that he trusts that Julian will be there to have productive conversations. And I think we could hold Mr. Smith to his word that he is looking to, he's going to be focused on what is happening next, and any concerns about, changing what would happen with the dam would come to public comments, at town council, which would be the appropriate place to express those views and not take up the time of the conservation committee. So I would hold you to that, and know that the town council may make decisions afterwards if something is not working. But I think if the chair feels comfortable with you joining the committee, then it's very important to have a variety of perspectives. And I don't think it's totally insane to think about relocating some beavers that I'm sure some Dame Road residents would be very happy to see located elsewhere. So,
Let me,
Councilor Welch?
could I say one more thing? I worked in Barry Goldwater's first campaign in 1952. He was my mother's boss, and he became a family friend. He supported the building of the Glen Canyon Dam before it was built. And in time, Barry came to say it was one of the biggest mistakes he made. He was a whitewater rafter. He changed his mind. And I hope one day some of you, after the dam is gone, and you see the expense of doing something with what is left over, and the loss of a historic amenity, a cultural amenity, and an ecological amenity, that you may change your mind too. So thank you.
Councilor Welch?
Yeah, I'll hold my comment. I have a response to M, but I'll hold that for the roundup at the end of the day. But basically, I don't think we devolve our authority to the commissions, but we can talk about all that afterwards. Okay. It's still up to us to make decisions no matter what the head of the committee wants to do. So that's my point there. But Julian.
Yes, sir.
What gives me pause is that the responsibility of the Conservation Commission is to protect natural resources and watershed resources in respective towns. They conduct research, advise local planning boards, may recommend programs for resource protection and development. There are a lot of issues with taking down the dam, but the key one, and the one that made me vote to take it down, is that the Nature Conservancy, PrEP, Conservation Law Foundation, they've been studying this for years. And right now, the Great Bay is dying. And all of them, plus every single environmental conservation group that contacted us, said, take down the dam. Nature Conservancy said this is Durham's once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to dramatically improve the environmental conditions of the Oyster River system by reconnecting it with the Great Bay estuary. Durham resident scientists who are focused on environmental issues, Will Wilhelm, Kat Ashcroft, Jake Kreitzer, Jamie Houle, and Lightbody, Jake and Ann both on the committee, and David Buck all support dam removal. It's weird to me that you've spent so much time talking about taking down the dam when such an overwhelming conservation benefit is alleged by all the scientists, save one who lives on the dam, on the backwater, but all the scientists that we spoke to say we should take down the dam. Are you going to listen to scientists, or are we going to be going with, you know, historical issues and things when you're on the Conservation Commission?
Now I'll answer your question. We're talking about improving or restoring to a very small extent a few hundred yards.
Not true. Not true.
Up to the foot of the reservoir. And most of the length of the river is not going to change. Marjorie Milne was, and before that her husband, were both very disturbed the first time the dam was opened. And she came close to deciding not to give her property overlooking the mill pond to the town when there was talk of removing the dam, and there was a drawdown. They were over the years. Lars and Marjorie were both disturbed by drawdowns of the mill pond. She was a scientist. She wrote the New York Times front page review of Silent Spring because she was the best known woman dealing with environmental issues in the United States at the time, and we should be proud of her. So, anyway, yes, many scientists would agree with what you had to say. What we did not hear from those who, like me, look at it in a different way, that we have changed the environment so much that something like the removal of the dam has a minuscule environmental impact. And at some point, the wishes and the hopes of humans may be a little more important than those of the critters who are going to be around after we are gone. Thank you. I mean, us as a species. We're on the way out, folks.
Mr. Chair, may I request a 3-minute recess?
Yes, we'll be recessed for 3 minutes.
Absolutely.
And we are considering the recommendation to appoint Mr. Julian Smith to an unexpired alternate membership position. It's been moved and it's been seconded, and now we will have a vote. So, Councilor Nadell?
Sally Nadell, nay.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Curtis Register, aye.
Cardin Welsh, nay.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vogt, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
Joe Friedman, nay. Who was counting?
I think it's 5-4, yes.
He's appointed.
Yeah.
5-4. Okay.
It was
He's on.
3, 4, 5. Yep.
Yep.
It's hard not having Todd here to count for us.
Yeah, when you start got to branching
I don't know how
off
to
two
do that.
hands.
All right. Next order of business is the first reading of ordinance 2026-03.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to clarify, the motion passed, correct? Or the appointment passed, yeah.
The motion passed to appoint Mr. Smith as an alternate member on the Conservation Commission. Yes. It was a 5-4 vote. Thank you. Okay, I'll make another motion here. I'll make a motion that the Durham Town Council hereby pass on first reading ordinance 2026-03, amending Chapter 175 zoning, the zoning map of the Durham Town Code to rezone map 108, lot 27, 10 Cowell Drive from Residence A, RA, to Church Hill, CH, zone, and schedule a public hearing for Monday, March 23rd, 2026.
I'll second that.
Second. Is there any conversation about that?
I just have a question, maybe for the Chair of Zoning. A couple of people mentioned putting affordable housing there. Is that an option the town has somehow to do, or?
Not in RA. Really, when you look at the numbers for affordable housing, we'll never have affordable housing in RA. And you have to be looking really to be putting that into something that looks more like an apartment building, in my opinion. For a single-family house to be affordable, you'd have to be able to lot and construction do it for around $400,000, which you're not going to get on a third of an acre there in RA, not in that location. So, and in terms of an overlay district, you wouldn't, trying to put just that lot into an overlay district without neighboring lots would be spot zoning, right? Yes. You know, to do it, we would have to look at probably putting about half that neighborhood into the overlay district.
I think the only reason I mention it is that I'm old enough to remember when we turned the Grange Hall into affordable housing, and I think an employee of the town lived there, and that's in the same area, and that's the only deliberation creation of affordable housing I know of.
Well, that becomes the broader topic. I don't want to get off of that particular thing.
You've answered the question. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Is the planning board still examining, I mean, when last I was on it, we were hoping to look at a workforce overlay district for the downtown area, because that was not, the one we created was for the outskirts of town and hasn't been successful yet. In examining, is it still part of the planning board's board to look, or plan to look at workforce housing in the downtown area?
I think the best way to manage workforce housing in the downtown area would be not as an overlay district, but as saying, you know, any development over a certain number of units should have a percentage, or it would maybe get some 79E support, something like that. Use that as a trigger for some 79E support if they put in a certain percentage of workforce housing. since we're on the topic and we seem to keep coming back to it, I think the most effective way to get workforce housing is just to increase your density as a whole and bring in, buildings that have a larger number of units in them so that you can bring in multiple family groups as opposed to just a small number of family groups on any given lot.
I think it's interesting that we don't have a zoning district at all that would allow for, well, we do. We have in the workforce overlay district, which is on the outskirts of town, we would allow for multi-unit housing without commercial or industrial uses. We don't allow for that anywhere downtown, and I think that's an interesting point because my concern is principally in terms of the budget and the tax base that Churchill has a requirement that the developments, it's under the development codes for the entire commercial core, they have to be able to, the building has to connect to a sidewalk. Right now, Cowell Drive has no sidewalk. If we change the zoning there, we're going to be required to put in a sidewalk and widen the road because the road also could not handle commercial uses that would be zoned for, such as a hotel, because we would be widening the zoning to all of those things. And so I do think we need to be very mindful as we're looking at questions of this, and I think it came up frankly, during the candidate forum, that, not all development is going to be positive in terms of the tax base for the town. We have to look at, is the development going to add more than the infrastructure and services required? And in this situation, I think we want to be mindful of changing a single lot on a very narrow residential street so that it could support institutional or commercial uses. And it would be the only lot on the street zoned for that because the other ones face Madbury Road. Is that creating a future tax obligation to Durham to put in a sidewalk per our standards and widen that road to accommodate traffic?
I think are we in the comment portion or are we in the Q&A portion?
There's a motion that's been seconded, we're talking about.
Good to go,
whether
sir.
that
If I could speak my thoughts on this, and if there are questions that you could answer, maybe you could throw me a bone. I think I'm pretty pro.
Remember, we haven't had public comments yet.
Public hearing, you mean?
We're just doing this to decide whether
To make a public.
to make a public hearing.
Certainly.
Okay.
Did I say something incorrect?
I don't know, but I think.
I don't know, I thought we were supposed to wait for public comments so we can judge them before we take a position, that's all.
Maybe I should go with my going in understanding of the situation. Is that a better phrasing?
Well, so with a initiative such as this, it's a planning board initiated zoning change. The planning board's gone through their process, they've held a public hearing, and now they're sending it to the council. Per the zoning ordinance, the council needs to hold a first reading, at which point the council could choose to move it forward to public hearing in the second reading, or could simply kill it tonight and choose not to move it beyond this evening. So if it's something that you feel has merit and you want to hear from the public and you're open to the idea, I'd recommend moving it on to public hearing. If you as a group feel like the answer is absolutely no, the public wouldn't dissuade you one way or the other, then put everybody out of their misery and kill it tonight. Basically.
I appreciate the succinct approximation. I'll try not to monologue too much because I know we're on the time. My going in is I think there's value here. I am a big supporter of discretionary development to enhance the revenue of the town. But I think your point is well taken in that doesn't mean the first person to show up with money wins. It doesn't mean another Onassis pipeline that can solve our problems is the one we throw into the slot. I think there are very real safety considerations that David and Susan brought up. I have been down Cowell Drive, whether it was canvassing or just driving my big truck around during peak times, and it is a challenge to get through that intersection safely, because Most people stop at the stop sign, but some don't. A lot of the kids aren't paying attention, especially when you got the middle school kids walking around. And so I think there is real concern for a potential either significant traffic congestion or a serious accident. And so I don't know how zoning regulations and land use regulations prioritizes it. That's my fault. But the infrastructure needs to make sure, we need to have the infrastructure to support the changes that we are recommending. And I think it is something to be considered, not necessarily something to take off the table. I do believe that there are areas in Durham, particular to the expertise of the planning board, that have come up that need to be relooked at, need to be rezoned, need to be modified. And I believe that Cowell may be amongst that area. My question is, how do we ensure that if we do push this on to public hearing and potentially implementation, what mechanisms are in place for us to traffic study / enhance the visibility and the traffic flow of the area that doesn't mean the public or the residents that live there just have to suffer?
If the planning board feels that traffic studies necessary, then one could be had. There is a site plan review. So one of the things that's not obvious on the maps necessarily that you saw, but would be obvious with a site walk if you were to sit there, is that the first 20 to 30 feet of grass is actually town right-of-way road.
That's on the left going up Cowell.
All those parking spaces, but I'm talking about the 10 Cal Drive itself, the part that makes that corner. This was a point that the property owner was pointing out during to the planning board, is that there's a lot of road there that was never paved. There was a tree so they didn't want to take the tree out, so they made this really bad narrow corner, which is causing a lot of the trouble. Part of the site plan review would be a discussion with Public Works about whether or not, as part of the project, that road should be widened. And along with potentially at whose expense. But so that would be address it. I mean, the comments regarding the sidewalk, very appropriate. It's the sidewalk, so the post office does not support a sidewalk on that side of the road. A sidewalk would need to go on the other side of the road unless something is done with the post office's property and that gets redeveloped, in which case that could be redesigned to have a sidewalk over there. Right now, that's all post office parking for their employees.
Good to go. Thank you for your answer. I am still understanding how this is not spot zoning, so I'll make sure I read a little bit more because I trust your recommendation. I am perpetually bewildered when I start looking through some of this stuff. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I think when the current zoning map was put into effect, there was a real focus on the traditional residential neighborhoods in Durham and trying to protect them and preserve them from development, from commercial development, commercial impacts, but particularly the impact of off-campus college student housing. And that kind of was pervasive in the way we looked at these maps. And what time has gone by, the town has done a tremendous amount to address the impact that off-campus college student housing has within the community. We've been very successful. We've dramatically reduced those types of impacts. And the state law has changed as well. And so that now it's not possible for municipalities to single out college students as a class. There's also a change, and the town is trying to take a look at broadening the tax base, promoting commercial development in town. And so this is one of those parcels, I think, that can very legitimately be viewed as part of the residential portion of town, as it is now, or part of the commercial part of town, as is being proposed here. And if you take a residential perspective, then I think some of the comments we hear from the public are very natural. Does more commercial, more intensive use work within a residential zone or not? Does that harm quality of life? How does traffic impact it? All those types of things. If you take the perspective that, look, times have changed and we're trying to more actively utilize parcels, I think what we heard from Mr. Berlin, who's the owner, makes perfect sense. This parcel is more or less surrounded by non-residential. Does it make sense to consider it that way? So I don't believe this is a parcel that the concept of spot zoning would apply to. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's what perspective we want to take and what the council feels is ultimately the right decision.
Thank you for your advice.
Go ahead and take a vote. Councilor Councilor Welsh?
Yeah, I just have a question as long as we have Paul here. Paul, there's no way to say, to restrict development on this parcel to residential, like through apartment buildings, that sort of thing?
And not without a major rewrite to the zoning ordinance.
Okay, so it would open it to any type of commercial?
It would open it to, to whatever is allowed in Churchill.
Okay.
Nursing home, childcare, hotel, restaurant. It's part of our commercial core.
Thank you.
So you want to go ahead and vote?
Yes, so we're voting on to have the
moving
public.
it. Yes.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Curtis Register, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Sonia Dell, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
M. Friedrichs, nay.
Robin Vogt, aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Okay. The vote passes. There will be a public hearing on March 23rd in this meeting.
I don't know if that I will be here next time, and I just want to really encourage my fellow councilors to really carefully consider the tax base in this equation. Even if the developer, there's a negotiation made and the developer pays for road widening or for sidewalk installation, they do not pay for the ongoing maintenance. That becomes a town cost. We do need to look at expanding our commercial options in town, including our downtown, but we have a lot of streets that have the infrastructure to do that. We are going to have an incredibly built Madbury Complete Streets project, and a lot of that is not zoned for any commercial use, where all the fraternities are, and there's a lot of single-family homes mixed in between them that are rented out as student properties currently. Even when you look at Garrison Ave, that all has sidewalk infrastructure, 2 lanes. When we look at Stratford, that does not have a sidewalk currently, but at least has space for 2 lanes with a yellow line. Cowell's is so narrow that there's not even a yellow line painted on that road, and I'm just really concerned that this, we're thinking a little bit penny wise and pound foolish in terms of the redevelopment of one property. What would that cost in the town's infrastructure long term? So please pay a lot of attention to that.
Well, it's kind of a segue into our next session, which is following on our last meeting and the rezoning, or the change in zoning for the downtown, bringing it up now for further discussion and perhaps further changes. And you just outlined some changes where perhaps we look at more than the downtown. This is intended to be an open discussion now. There'll be no motions that are planned. But more of a discussion about what are our next steps for revitalizing the downtown. Where should growth occur, perhaps in the downtown? What kind of growth? And I'll turn it over to the group in just a minute. But my understanding is that the last planning board meeting last week, there were some discussion about 5 stories by right in all of the downtown, which was brought up as a concept, and that might be something that this council may want to consider. maybe that there's a compromise position of a fifth story if the fifth story is setback, since there were no setbacks required for the fourth story, either setback or the peaked roofs, some prescription for that. It's also my understanding that that the planning board, and you guys are here, so if I'm not right, please do say something when I'm done. I'll give you a chance. But that it was brought up that perhaps the planning board should look at design guidelines so that there'd be stricter rules, since the four-story didn't go the way some people wanted it to go. And that, my understanding was that that didn't actually go anywhere at that planning board meeting. So as far as I'm concerned, there are some tweaks to be made existing to the four-story, and I've mentioned them before. Setbacks of the retail, number of bedrooms allowed, and, excuse me, and one of the other issues is, should we perhaps revise the Economic Development Committee and have a larger group look at, we have a lot of talent in town. We used to have an Economic Development Committee. The structure is all there. We can vote to revise it, bring it back and repopulate it, look at its charter. And I know this is the last meeting for some and for this session, but we still, it seems to me, we still have work to do for our downtown and for economic development in town. So I think with that, I'll open it up to anybody else that may like to say something.
Oh,
You were first, Nat. Go ahead.
Councilor Grant?
There was that discussion in several iterations before about the four-story and then the fifth story. And out of the planning board and out of Paul was the fact that we should put a group, maybe even have to put a group together and identify areas for the fifth story, for five-story buildings. But it just can't be, if you try and do it with conditional use, nothing's going to ever happen. So it has to be by right. So to me, when we started looking at the fact that obviously the parking lot and even all the way to Pettybrook, I mean, we had a beautiful design at the Pettybrook corner there that was very possibly a fifth story, but they just didn't want to deal, with, the challenges. So if you're just talking about first the fifth story things, we'd like to have that open for the development of 66, is I'd say Pettybrook to that corner at Jenkins on that side. It's a very open area crossing that street over into the university, and it's perfectly logical to have those maybe higher than the rest of the downtown as we head towards the narrowing at the corner at Madbury.
There are three major lots there, 66 Main Street, the M&T Bank site, and 74 Main Street, where a project has been approved already, but could possibly even be combined.
And maybe
with its
even the
neighbor.
Jenkins courts on the other side.
But, I guess when I think about it in terms of the 5 stories, I feel like the natural break is between town and campus and 66. Like all of a sudden you've got this, this hill. And in order to keep Main Street 4 stories until you, just for one more building, include going to the west of Jenkins Court and starting with 66 Main. Makes more sense to me, but my opinion.
We're already halfway through this, Mr. Chair, but I figured just as a matter of process, because this is a discussion and it's definitely a charged issue for members of the council, members of the public, a potentially benefit, we are pressed for time. Unless we're going to continue to, I'll keep making motions to expand the time hack because I want to have my roundtable monologues. But I want to make sure that we are doing this in an effective and useful way so that we're not spiraling ourselves because there's not necessarily any opposing thoughts able to interject as well. And so if one counselor speaks and just move to the next counselor, I know we're going to think of different things, but I think one opportunity is probably the most wise given that there is no actual motion on the table and no decisions getting made, just a feeler. Does that feel fair, Mr. Chair?
If you'd like.
Okay, and I'll run my comments very briefly in that I think more thought resources applied to this problem is only going to be to Durham's benefit. And economics is currently the biggest and most catastrophic alligator closest to the boat, in my opinion, due to all of the taxes, all of the uncertainty with the global and national, situation, as well as, the housing crisis. So those are my thoughts.
Councilor Welch, did you want to say that?
Yeah, I'd say the 50 feet, I'm consistent with Sally on this. In the past, there was a cutoff not at Jenkins Court, but beyond town and campus. And part of the idea was there you don't want like a canyon effect in Jenkins Court with one 5-story building and then other 4-story buildings going along the way. Also, there's a natural hill, and this has been discussed, go back to 2012, 2011 and look at some meetings, and there was big discussion about where the cutoff should be. So I agree with that. I have to say I'm a little surprised at the planning board after we had a 5-4 vote on whether or not there should be 50 feet or 48 feet restriction that they allegedly, according to what someone just said, started looking at, well, should we have 5 stories everywhere in town? So it seems a little bit unusual, given that there was a lot of dissension just about going to 50 feet, that all of a sudden the planning board would start discussing an extra story by right, not by conditional use.
I would say that that was not an extremely long discussion.
Okay, so it wasn't a serious discussion?
I wouldn't say that it was.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. But I am in favor of putting the 5th story on where it used to be. I think it can be by conditional use, and I think it can be, we can talk about whether it's conditional use or whether it's by right. We are trying to get more density downtown, and that's part of smart growth, and we have limited places to do it. So I think 5 stories west of town and campus is a good place to start. That's it.
Would anybody else like to comment?
Oh, excuse me, one other thing. And I also think the 40 feet on the commercial is a good idea. As I understand it, though, the whole first floor still has to be commercial, but you can have retail 40 feet deep, not needing 50 feet.
You're talking about the depth, okay.
Yeah, depth.
We did discuss that as something else,
Okay.
as a side topic. The one statement I want to make is this is also, I think, a good opportunity if you go with the Economic Development Committee or whatever, to start maybe talking about a Vision 2050, right? What should Durham look like 25 years from now? And let's put the zoning in place to make that happen, right? The 10-year master plan cycles, I know that's good, it's law and all, but I don't think it looks far enough ahead, to be honest. I think we need to be thinking about it longer term. So that's just, I'm hoping that we can get more people thinking about the true long term and not just what's happening in the next 3 years.
Just on that, Paul, if I could just ask a question. Are you thinking of outside help for that?
I think as Councilor Friedman said, there's people in town who know that stuff that we could draw on and recruit.
One way or the other.
Can somebody explain to me why this is important to do when we know it's going to be aesthetically backwards? Is there some big reason that you want to go to 5 stories in there and make it more of a canyon? Is there some advantage to the town? Because I'm getting kind of worried that it's being driven by developers who want to make more money when they sell the place. But that doesn't do much good for the town.
So, take a look at what happened to your tax assessments the last year. Okay? Your commercial values went down. And we've had people say, oh, you got to do X amount of new footage in order to make up for that loss. That's not the only way to think about it. The other way to think about it is, how do we bring those commercial values back up? And we bring them back up by bringing people into town, into the downtown permanent residences, and also finding, and this is where I think an economic committee driving things would help, but also how do we attract people to come in for tourist reasons, to visitors, outside visitors coming in and stopping and spending money and doing activities in town that we're not seeing now. Right now, 95% of the people who come in are going to UNH, doing something on campus and leaving and not stopping anywhere else in town. And we need to stop that. We need to give them reasons to do other things here in town.
But
Just
if you
a
really
quick
want,
adder on that, though, the concern came from Todd and from Joe about the fifth story because of development of 66 Main. So, that's, I think we're trying to understand that that's still something that we want as a town.
I'll just note that in the right locations downtown and done well, 5 stories can work in a very productive way.
We have them.
And we have them. At Madbury Commons, portions of that are 5 stories, but it's ringed by 2 and 3 story. And the passive observer would not know there are 5 stories there because it works. The site worked, the design worked. And at 66 Main Street, I think that demarcation we just mentioned, from town and campus, essentially heading toward campus, that area could easily be 5 stories. And I will say that in conversations I've had and some very, very preliminary mock-ups, developer has shown to me and to Joe regarding 66 Main Street, they could do 4 stories or 5 stories, same number of occupants, but 5 stories would provide much more of what Durham actually wants with the kind of stepped setbacks that would make the site and the project much more attractive and workable. So I think it's important that we move ahead with some haste in allowing the height that we hope to achieve at this location. It's also mitigated somewhat because you have tall university buildings right across the street, and it would seamlessly meld from UNH, Holloway Commons, into that site and then stepping down. Now, are there other parcels in the downtown where 5 stories might work? Maybe, and I think that's where a group could look at it. I don't know what they are right now, but maybe.
so the theory is that if we add a story to that building, that students won't rent them, that people will own them and pay taxes on it, or is it going to be student rental? My concern, as I leave the board, is this. The EC development that I've been involved in is commercial development, is much more bang for the buck. Looking around the town, keep the town looking well, because that's why people come here, and do EC development in whatever parcels we have outside the downtown. But if that's not what the town... I drove into South Berwick today, and there's a 5-story building staring at you. It's the ugliest building in town. And that whole block is not attractive. I'm just worried about the Durham I knew when we used to go to the corner restaurant in that building is gone. And I just hope that the benefit we're going to get out of this is actually worth... Obviously, it's not as aesthetically pleasing as a lower building. That's why we have the zoning the way we are. But I'm probably going to lose it, so...
So appreciate all of your comments, and I think we do need to move on, though, and we'd like to end on time and have our roundtable, so if we could, unless it's...
I mean, I will use my time at the round table to talk about this then.
All right.
Okay.
Please do.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to start on the roundtable?
I can do that if you want. There was IMAC.
Thank you, by the way, Mr. Barrett and
What did we do with the...
Rasmussen. Appreciate your...
We finished the
appreciate your help.
discussion?
It was just a discussion.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So at the IMAC meeting on February 8th, we got an update from Sam Hewitt from the DPW, talking about having a kickoff meeting with Casella and how they wanted to move the old trucks would be traded in or auctioned. and also the importance of getting messaging out to the public about the new curbside public pickup plan, and that will probably start at the end of March. There are a number of members of IMAC that are trying to understand better the impacts of PFAS. Then also they talked about future community education programs. So essentially 8 different ideas of ways IMAC might outreach. And other business, and one that I'd like to highlight that is something that Paul's been doing, and I might hopefully represent it correctly, but Paul's working with UNH students on a light bulb study to look at information that could be used by the town, by residents, and to understand better light bulb use and choices that are out there. Glad to see that the new Dunkin' Donuts is under construction. IMAC is interested in encouraging them to do composting and recycling in the news setting. May not work, but they're going to encourage it. And also, people have been asking me, the plan is to open up the swap shop in early April. We will probably wait until after the Easter holiday. Many people have told me they have lots of things in their garage and their basement, so we'll be ready for you, but not till April, and not as long as the weather cooperates. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Burton?
I spent Monday Friday as a substitute for Representative Selig on educational policy. The Republican leadership of the House has seriously brought in a bill that would change all of our public schools into charter schools. All of them. Removing it from public oversight, installing curriculums that these folks want to put in there, and it's mind-boggling. The other one that we discussed was brought in as a bill that would eliminate the superintendents in the state because they have too much power. The Attorney General of New Hampshire has filed a case in court to reverse all of the Claremont decisions as to the state's responsibility to provide education. And if any of these go through, you think the taxes are high now, wait till the state withdraws all of that support. And I would point out to the people who were here before that accusing us of throwing people out of buildings, we only control a small piece of that tax rate. The 60% is in the school districts and another 10-15% of the county. We control very little, but the way things are going, it's going to be a lot more expensive if any of these cases, any of these legislation gets passed and the governor signs it. It's going to get a lot worse. And I hate to bring that news. Anyway, on my last roundtable, thank you all for putting up with me for all this time. And I can't say I'll be watching the meetings on YouTube.
Oh, come on.
I'll try to laugh.
I think I'll just poke sticks in my eyes.
It's Monday Night Football. Come on.
Monday Night Football. But it's been amazing. The people that have all served on this board for 11 years or 12 years I've been here have been great. And I hope you can keep going and make right decisions, or a decision. And Todd, you're fantastic. I think we should expect more decorum than we had tonight. I think that I could not listen anymore to that gentleman reviling us and Todd and the work we do. And so he was violating the rules we have on decorum when he started going. And I don't think we need to put up with that. So I'll see you in the movies, sir.
Thank you very much, Wayne.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The Conservation Commission has not met, but we're meeting on Wednesday and working forward on the WCSOD or WSOD, hopefully. We also have one development that we need to look at for to give the planning board recommendations.
It's on the Bay Road.
Yep. 561, I think, Bay Road. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. 10:19. All right, for AgCom, they haven't met since the last town council meeting. Keep y'all's ears open for farmers market updates. Estimated time is June to October, but I don't have exact dates, and I think the location is adjusting. I haven't heard the exact, is it still 66 Main, or I think they're looking at potentially moving to different locations.
You're talking about the...
Farmers market during the summer months.
So at this point, it looks as though it's going to move forward at the M&T Bank site.
Good to go. 9 March, just before the election, Town Council Chambers, 7 p.m., next AgCom meeting. Oyster River School Board, School District. I attended their listening tour this evening right before I walked in. In it, I went to Mohammed and I talked with Mr. David Goldsmith and Dave Toddy, the Director of Facilities, as well as several other members of the community that showed up. Tax implications are definitely a hot button and a very real challenge for a significant number of people. And one of the questions I asked Mr. Goldsmith to his face was, did he believe that the school board and associated entities considered carefully enough the hit to the purse weighing the children's needs for the facility? And he unequivocally said yes to my statement. He walked me through the reasoning of it. He walked me through the whys, and it made sense. There is a video on the Oyster River Cooperative School Board website. They YouTubed one of the listening tours. I think it's got around 2,000 views currently, and I would highly encourage members of the public that have reservations or have questions to view that video in its entirety. But they do a really thoughtful job explaining the need. Mr. David Toddy did a very passionate rendition of what planning steps they took to make sure they were giving a realistic assessment to the tax base and to the people who would be fronting the bill for this, and that the need matched the want. I asked them if they were planning for future large influxes of kids, and they told me very plainly they weren't trying to add frills. They were trying to add what was necessary for the current operating environment without making it obsolete as soon as it's constructed. They talked about how they had piped sewage or the septic systems to make sure that the septic would be able to maintain their support for it, the leach field impacts, the power infrastructure impacts, the liability concerns on whether if hidden cost hit, would that jump the catastrophic cap? And no, it won't. There are mechanisms in place, and they did a deliberate job reducing the probability of that event happening. And so I am very satisfied, though I am also a taxpayer that will continue to have to deal with these ever increasing taxes. I think it's important to understand that the future of this community is tied to the future of our families and our communities. Their next meeting for the school board is 5 March in the Morse Recital Hall at 7 p.m. I am taking for action, or at least via email, the comment that the chairperson said about determining the definitions of VA disability, permanent and total. So I'll make sure in the next week or so I delineate that at least a little easier. And finally, I want to, at least on camera, try to redirect a lot of the personal attacks and the vitriol I've heard directed towards our town administrator. I think it's important to understand that the town administrator has finite amounts of power and influence within our current town charter construct. He is not a mayor. It's not even technically considered a weak mayor system because he's not fully an executive, he's an administrator. And his charges up under Article 4 of our town charter clearly delineate what he is responsible for. He's not a mafia don. He's not, I don't know if you keep track, somebody put a GPS tracker on him, but he's not secretly living a double life outside of hours by skipping work. He works hard. I find him to be a man of integrity. I find him to be a man that is steadfast in his beliefs and democracy and in making sure that the town is understanding its transparency of what goes on. He does an extraordinary job responding and reaching out to residents. And I think it would be of benefit to the individuals that have issue with Todd to do a little soul searching and read the town charter that clearly delineates the responsibilities for the town between the town council, who have responsibility for setting the policy of the town, the direction of the town, and what happens to the town. The town administrator has the obligation to execute those orders and to ensure that the departments meet their job requirements based on the state constitution and the laws and regulations set by our House of Representatives and our state senators. So before we start using flamboyant personal attacks to describe an individual that has dedicated a significant amount of his life to the curating this town, I would highly encourage people to get their facts straight. I also want to apologize to this council for my outburst earlier. I got inflamed by one of our residents tonight. All members of the public have the right to express their opinions in public comment one way or another. Though I think it's important to understand democracy is not personal attacks and grandiose hyperbole, but learning to communicate your needs and perspective with your neighbors. Factuality and inhibition of ego are essential to this. Democracy is my first love, and I'm exceedingly proud to be a part of this body, a small part of this body, and I am looking forward to continuing searching solutions for solutions to the real challenges facing our residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Just wondering, what percentage of the voters have to vote for the bond to pass? Do you know?
You talking to me?
School board, yeah, the school bond.
Oh man, you're going to challenge my understanding of the school board policies.
It did meet, they did pass the bond.
They have a deliberative session.
Deliberative session.
Yeah, March 10th is when it's going to pass. I think it's, I won't say, I will get back to you with that answer.
60, I think it's 65, because we get it reduced, because we lost a building by 17 votes once. I think it's...
No, I can remember in the past, but I couldn't remember when.
I think it's 60%.
We're voting on this, you know, in a week and a half. And what percentage of the voters have to vote for the bond to pass?
Let me get back to you. I understand the question.
But someone may know.
60%. I'm
Yeah, I
pretty
think
sure.
it's 60.
Yeah,
I will validate that.
It's either 60 or 65%. It's,
No, it's
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
because
so
it's
Curtis,
not
if you
our-
can, that'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, I'm not lecturing or saying anyone did anything wrong. You know, our committees are unbelievable. We have like tremendous talent in this town. I was on the Conservation Commission. We're getting people with worldwide renown on our committee, you know, deciding whether or not we can be close enough to wetland or something like that. It's really unbelievable, and they do very good work, and they work very hard. However, we're elected, and they're appointed. Or at least you guys were elected, I was appointed. I hope you were elected. But you can't devolve your responsibility and your power to the committees. You can't say, well, the committee, I mean, you can if you want to, but don't just decide, well, this is going to happen. If someone who's the chair of the committee recommends someone, then we should let them on the committee. It's up to us to decide who's on these committees because they're just appointed. And so they could come up with something that doesn't make any sense, and they could vote unanimously to do this. And I've, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think IMAC wanted to do pay to throw unanimously, and the council turned it down. I know that the Conservation Commission came up with very strict WCOD. Hasn't come to the council yet, but they voted for that. I think it was nearly unanimous. That has to be changed before it comes to us. So they are going to make mistakes. So when a commission, any of them, votes unanimously, that's a point that's certainly worth considering. But don't just say, well, they voted unanimously, so we're going to go with it. And don't just think if the head of the chair recommends someone, we have to go with it. You still have to, it's still our power to decide who gets appointed and to decide whether or not someone makes a mistake. The town's kind of betting on us to do that for them. So that was all in that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting to 11 p.m.
I'll second.
Councilor Grant?
Wait, I'm not done.
Wait, we got to vote.
Oh, sorry.
Motion.
Sorry.
Councilor
Did
Grant?
somebody second the motion?
Yes.
Nay. Heather Grant, nay.
Robin Cook, aye.
Aye, but let's try for 10:45, folks.
That's what I was thinking.
I'll vote aye and agree with that. I think Councilor Friedrich.
Signed Adele, aye.
Wayburn, aye.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Curtis Register, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
All right, passes. Councilor Welsh, please
Yeah,
continue.
just very quickly, first of all, there was no land stewardship subcommittee meeting, so I'll fill you in what happens at the next meeting, which is on the 11th, next time we have a meeting. And secondly, I'm just asking, and Paul's here, but I'll ask Heather, you guys are going to revise the design standards now that we've made the changes in the downtown?
I don't know where it is on the list. That hasn't been prioritized.
Okay, but I'm suggesting that you prioritize it because we had a very close vote on whether or not to go to 4 stories. There's a lot of public input, and a lot of people said, well, don't worry about it because they have to go through the design standards. So I think the town is looking for revised design standards for the change
I'll bring it up.
that was pretty big when it was made.
I'll bring it up now.
That's all. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So the planning board met, and it was a relatively short meeting for us. There was a very short public hearing open for a subdivision at 20 Stafford because it was really being postponed, but we had it as a public hearing, but there's pending issues on Stafford in terms of the town-owned parking area along that road. We also had 561 Bay Road postponed because of the snow. Concom had not reviewed the plans for that particular property, so that went away. We did vote to move forward on EV charging station, which you guys are seeing as, I think, tonight. Isn't that our next, or is that the next meeting?
It'll be next time.
Next meeting. Oh no, we're setting a public hearing, yeah. Sorry. And that's to allow charging stations by right as accessory to your property. I think it's clean and simple, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And then we also are continuing with the discussion of residential zoning changes that were suggested by the Housing Task Force, and that's still in early stages. That's it.
I'll keep mine brief. The Energy Committee is meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. I won't be available to be in person due to childcare reasons. My wife has taken a very much needed night off. Therefore, I will be remotely at that meeting. There will be an election of a new chair and vice chair, continued conversation of CPACER, and of course the concerns around CPCNH and the Eversource rate, some of the public input, and just some feedback from Steve Holmgren, our CPCNH representative, and just maybe some clarifying news and some information that we can share with the public about where that's at. And then outside of that, the Human Rights Commission is meeting on Thursday, March 18th at 4:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Yeah, go ahead.
Someone asked me and I couldn't answer, is CPCNH still our default if you don't do anything?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
That was a really excellent email that Holmgren wrote.
I told him that yesterday.
That was really, for those of us who are not technical, it was really quite on.
We're lucky to have him on the committee for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, very.
Okay, so to respond quickly, yes, we desperately need an economic development committee. Why aren't we looking at the professional office district? We don't allow any retail, restaurants, anything like that. We're going to have Madbury complete streets going all the way up to the library, and UNH numbers are going down, meaning that those frats are, some of the buildings are starting to look rather old and sad. There's a lot of student rentals mixed in there, fewer students to fill them. Why aren't we taking advantage of all of that district to redevelop? And when we're talking about bang for the buck, I mean, squabbling over 4 to 5 stories, working through the design standards, we're gonna get a lot more bang for our buck if we recategorize professional office district. And then also, we really need to be looking for places we could add multi-unit housing that doesn't include commercial industrial bases. We talk about having a housing shortage, and we talk about wanting to attract more diverse residents into Durham. If we want a vital downtown, we need more businesses and we need more diverse residents. And we need to think about doing that by expanding the uses in the professional office area and looking for ways where we can bring in more, dense housing, but acknowledging that, that we don't differentiate currently between allowing, say, light industrial versus a 4-unit apartment, and the demands on a street for that are very distinct. And I already stated this with the Cole Drive, so I won't go into it, but I think you understand why I feel very strongly that we need a way to differentiate the two, because we need to be mindful of our tax base, use the road infrastructure and the sidewalk infrastructure we currently have. Multi-unit housing can work in residential zones, but we don't currently have the zoning to enable that. So workforce housing overlay for downtown would be incredibly appropriate, and it may not perfectly match the downtown footprint, and that would make sense. And please remember to vote next Tuesday for our school budget as well as our local elections. So it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Correct, at the Oyster River High School.
At Oyster River High School.
Yeah, already voted.
So to follow on your comments, Councilor Friedrichs, I would agree that looking at all of the downtown adjacent, or at least the PO, but I'd also suggest all of the downtown adjacent zoning to see if more can be done. And when we take a look at the overall downtown, there's Church Hill as well as adjacent, and there's a third district, I should know, besides PO, that's adjacent to downtown. We split our downtown into CBD1, CBD2, and whether any additional CBD2 properties should be included, such as Up Mill Road, which was suggested earlier. Again, downtown adjacent. On my other comments, for the roundtable, the Department of Parks and Rec met this past Tuesday, the 24th. There were updates on the strategic plan, including parks and trails, communication and engagement, and the financial and CIP recommendations coming forward in 2026. The group is also working on their draft 2026 committee goals. The camp registrations and adult classes sign-up is ongoing, for summer camps, that is. A couple of events coming forward are the April 4th, 2026 Egg Hunt at Oyster River High School, Monday, May 25th, the Memorial Day event downtown, and Downtown Durham Day will be on August 6th, 2026, from 6 to 8 p.m. The rink we're going to get a report on how the rink did this year in April. Anecdotally, they're having a very successful season. There were 122 skaters at the Valentine's Day skate, they were quite encouraged by that. There's the so-called Slush Cup hockey tournament coming up on March 15th, and registration is due by this Wednesday on the 4th of March. The next meeting of Parks and Rec is on March 24th, 2026. The Tri-Region Economic Development Stakeholders held a Zoom call on February 24th. There were 30 participants from state, regional, local governments and advisors, and there was a review on AI and economic development and how they're being used together. There was also a roundtable at that meeting. and the next meeting will be on March 24th. Lastly, the Strategy Committee for the Economic Development District for Stratford County reviewed a draft of the proposed lenses, themes, and goals, they said, for the next 5-year plan. Their next meeting will be on March 27th. Mr. Selly.
Thank you. A few items, just in terms of the conversation this evening when a member of the public was criticizing me in particular, that is okay. Residents can criticize my performance, my compensation, which I will note the council has approved in the past. It was up to the council, my performance, etc. What crosses the line is if somebody threatens personally or begins to use obscene language or is disruptive and disrupting the meeting so the meeting can't progress. And it's also acceptable under state law for somebody to criticize the council. And so just to let everybody know that. I don't take it personally, and people have a right to their opinion. Next, I've gotten a few questions about this because there were many attendees at tonight's meeting who were wearing holstered firearms. There were 10 or 11, as I understand, individuals with them this evening, and that is acceptable. There's no prohibition against carrying firearms in the town hall. It's allowable under state law, and what becomes problematic is if somebody begins to brandish or display that firearm in a threatening manner, and that then becomes problematic. I did hear during one of our breaks that some members of the group who were here earlier with firearms were discussing the possibility of attending the next meeting carrying long rifles. So we may see additional firearms at the next meeting. But again, the same parameters would apply. Let me see. In terms of Wagon Hill Farm and dogs off leash, I just want to note I'm so tired, I'm jet lagged. I got home from England yesterday. So the council had put in place a leash law for Durham about 23 years ago. And so if somebody is on public property off of their own property, they're supposed to have their dog on a leash at all times. If they're at somebody else's property, that's between them and the other people. But on public property, there was an exception which said that the council said in the ordinance that the administrator could make exceptions. And that's what happened with the consultation of the Parks and Recreation Committee all those years ago, that we felt we wanted to create an opportunity for people to allow them and their pet, their dogs, to go to Wagon Hill for a certain period of the day. And we decided it would be sunrise until 10 a.m. with their dogs off leash. For a variety of reasons, largely because we don't have the resources to regularly have a presence at Wagon Hill Farm, people are coming after 10 a.m. and letting their dogs off leash. And I've asked the police department to make additional efforts to be at Wagon Hill Farm, and they've tried to do that. So rather than doing some traffic details, responding to complaints from neighborhoods about speeding cars, they're going to spend a bit more time at Wagon Hill Farm. I'm hopeful that once we find a tenant for the farmhouse, and I'll comment on that in a moment, that person might be open to spending some time, a few days a week, walking the property and just educating people on the rules there. I'd like to continue to allow people to have their dogs off leash. I think it can work well if people are responsible with their pets. And to that end, Veronique, our land stewardship coordinator, has been meeting with some residents who are very active in the dog walking community, and they're going to really try to put together an ongoing effort to inform people on the rules about walking dogs. But if at this point in time, although the Land Stewardship Subcommittee has recommended that we require dogs to be on leash through the construction of the shoreline restoration. I'm not planning to implement that. If the council feels differently, just let me know. Like, if you want to jump into this, be my guest. I'm just outlining for you my thinking. If we just don't have success with this new group, or with the group, to better manage the dogs off leash in the morning, and we were experiencing, defecation around the property, and irresponsible behavior, I'll revisit it. But I'm hopeful we can find a workable path going forward. So for the dog people who let their dogs off leash, I just want to dispel the rumor that we're taking that away. Right now, we're trying to find a responsible path for it. In terms of parking at Wagon Hill Farm, there's no plan in the works to expand the parking field at Wagon Hill Farm. So again, I want to dispel that myth or rumor I've heard. We're not planning to do that at this point in time. But we are talking about the potential of charging non-residents to park there. And I do plan to bring a proposal to the council and let you decide if you want to move forward with that or not. The council, on at least 2 occasions in the past, has decided not to do that. So I'm going to bring it back to you and you can decide what you want to do. And we're trying to gather some data to get a better sense of how many people we're talking about who are from out of town and what we reasonably could expect with revenue. And we don't have good data on that right now. So we're seeing what we can find so we can have an informed conversation. With the apartment at Wagon Hill Farm, we used to rent the whole farmhouse to police officers at a reduced market rate, and that person opened the gate in the morning, closed the gate in the evening, had a police cruiser parked there because they lived there, and we just kind of keep an eye on things. We're planning to, at this point, to determine what a market rental rate for the apartment would be. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, around 1,400 square feet. And it looks like, I'm not a real estate expert, it looks like a market rate is somewhere between $2,200 and $2,600 a month. Wow. But I've asked a few realtors whether they feel that's the right number or not, and if they could provide information. So I'd asked Nikki Douglas, Sally Tobias, and Tom Toy. And so I'm waiting for some feedback from them. They asked for some photographs of what it would look like, what it looks like inside, so they can better give us some guidance. And then we'll go forward. I will note we have had, I was trying to think through how to market that apartment. And on a positive note, we have two separate potential people who've approached the town, approached me, who are interested in renting the farmhouse. Both are the grown children of longtime, very active Durham residents who have a connection to the community and really would like to live at Wagon Hill Farm. And so they are waiting for us to figure out what the market rate's going to be, so they know if they can afford it or not. And but our hope is to have the farmhouse occupied by April 1st at the earliest, more likely May 1st, plus or minus. So I wanted to let you know that.
Is that revenue in the budget?
Yes, it is. It's in the budget. We had budgeted 9 months at, I think, $2,000 a month. I'm just going on memory. So as long as we're occupied by May 1st, June 1st at the latest, we should be okay, I think. I wanted to just note, to pile on to something that Councilor Friedrichs noted with looking at the professional office district. I would strongly recommend that we do that, and in particular, to look at the Davis Court Apartments on Madbury Road. Mm-hmm. That is a perfect opportunity for much more intensive workforce housing. And we've been stymied on doing that because of the residential neighborhoods worry about student housing. They didn't want more student housing there, but it's crying for redevelopment, and we could really do something great there, I think. So I would recommend we look at that. And then at 10 Cowell Drive, I just, right now, I think what residents are responding to is, I'm not taking a position on to rezone or not, I'm just trying to give you some thoughts. Residents are responding to what the present owner has talked about doing. And I just want to note as sort of an instructive case at the former town office site across the street, none of us in our wildest dreams considered the food truck model that's there now. Like, none of us considered that. And we spent a lot of time thinking about it. So I think when we talk about rezoning, we need to think not only about what the owner today is thinking about doing, but what might happen in the long term on that site. So let's think about that. Might that lot be merged into another lot or lots nearby that are in that zone? What might that mean? So I'd say keep an open mind. And the last thing was, for the last week, we visited our daughter who's studying abroad in England, and we visited Oxford, England, and in walking the historic streets, I walked by the town hall. So I went into the town hall and I said, the town hall, is there a mayor here? And they looked at me like I was crazy. No, is there a town hall administrator, manager? No. I said, well, where are like the supervisors for like the police department, the fire department, the roads? They said, oh, the county council, that's what you want. That's in another part of town. So the town hall was just like a meeting hall for events and things. It was very interesting. So later we took a Uber to the train station, and I asked the Uber driver, excuse me, where are the county council offices? And the guy got like defensive and said, why? Do you want to make a complaint? It's just the professional interest, that's all. So anyway, just to that report from Oxford. So thank you. Those are all my reports. Oh, I had one other. With policing and Kalia. So in the budget process, I had proposed $17,000 to fund a Kalia part-time position to help with managing the Kalia process. And I will say emphatically, it is, Kalia brings professionalism to a police department in the daily practice, but not only that, it ensures that the department knows and adheres to the most up-to-date policing best practices. And it ensures that the department not only says they're doing it, but it ensures an outside review team comes in on a regular cycle every 3 or 4 or 5 years. The cycle changes with CLIA. And they review the work that's being done to make sure that the police department is actually doing what they say they're doing. And as your administrator, that gives me confidence, because although I know a lot about a lot of things, I am not a police officer. And I have to tell you, I really like having outside experts assure me that our men and women with guns are doing it right. And that reduces our liability. It actually gives us a discount on our insurance by about $2,000 a year through Primex. And it's just the way to do it. It's good business. I think every department should be accredited. But I'll say, this is an example, like I am not perfect, okay? And I don't know everything. And sometimes we do things a certain way and events cause you to rethink. So our police department is not only CLIA accredited, there's like a level 1 accreditation, because I'm super tired and jet lag. We are like super accredited. We are a model agency. So instead of the 100 and so on standards that a normal level 1 accredited agency has to adhere to, which are like the core standards, we're adhering to like 450 standards, like a lot more. And so because we've been digging down and drilling down on costs, like this has been coming up, I followed up with Durham Police to say, look, you say you need a new person, I hear you, I see what's going on every day, I know, but do we need to be accredited at the super level? Could we simply drop down and be accredited at the CALIA level 1, the basic level? And what would that mean? So this afternoon, Chief Kelly and his team came over to meet with me, and they had spent some time researching this and pulled out the different standards. And we had a really productive conversation. And our conclusion is that it actually makes sense for an agency our size to simply be level 1 accredited, that the super accreditation is maybe more than we need. And if we're not doing the super accreditation, we don't need the part-time person. And so I told Chief Kelly and his team to move forward with the level 1 accreditation rather than the full accreditation, which should provide some savings going forward for the town. What do we spend on accreditation? It's approximately $8,000 a year. And for an accreditation, the year, it's a 4-year cycle now, the year we actually have the reviewers come and then have to go to a conference to appear before the accreditation full CALIA board, that involves sending several officers to the CALIA event. In that year, it's more. So this past year, we spent, rather than $8,000, we spent about $18,000 on accreditation. But next year, it'll drop again to the $8,000. And from my perspective, that is short money to have the confidence that we're doing it the right way. So I just wanted to let you know that.
In my fourth speech, I did talk about CALIA when we did the gun bill, and people asked me later. What I did find out was we're the only, one of the few college towns in the country that has both the town police and the university police accredited by CALIA, which is very special. And a good reason why we can respond much quicker than students in the study hall with guns if there is an incident. And that was the point I made. So obviously it didn't take, but you know, that bill still has to go to the Senate and the governor and so forth.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll extend the meeting if you ask me again.
Oh my God. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor, raise your hands. We are adjourned.
Otherwise,